As the Sale in 6 hours at the Glen, live on RS2, IMSA radio, and in sound and vision on www.radio-show.co.uk. Great part of the circuit. All these parts of the circuit are all rhythm areas. I think they'll be down a gear also. Fortunately, we can't hear the onboards. We haven't had that given to us, so we can't hear how hard he is working the car. So
the whole 14 miles is you need a rhythm the whole
14.
Do. Because when you break that rhythm by, outbraking yourself or getting a little bit sideways, you kind of have to have a reset. Right, where am I? Where am I? Because you're thinking 2 or 3 corners ahead here, I believe.
Oh, 5 or 6 corners ahead, 10 or 12 corners ahead, because they come at you so quickly, Joe. And the thing is reminding yourself where you are on the track. To remind yourself of where that bit is, you have to learn this circuit in bits, so you learn it in bits, and I think most people get up to the Caracciolo carousel and learn that fairly easily, but the bit after the Caracciolo carousel, there are too many sections that look similar to each other.
Yes.
And you've got to remember which order those come in.
Yes.
Because you can get into a lot of trouble very quickly.
Because some of the sections look a little bit like one another. And they are not like one another at all.
Well, you've got to know whether it's flat out in 5th or down to 3rd and a heavy braking, haven't you? Because by the time you arrive there, if you've decided it's the former and the latter, and the latter is in fact the latter, then you're in big trouble. But it does have a flow to it. You and I have been round together in a variety of machinery, and it has that flow to it once you've got a few laps under your belt. I think the thing is just never to think that you know the place. Always have to give it respect.
More than any other. I mean, it's not a conventional track. This is the first. Right, mark this down on the bingo card. This is a recalibration of the mind when we come here. And I usually say that. I've said that every year since we've come here. You cannot treat this place like a conventional racetrack. And that's because there's 14 miles of it.
And that's what Klaus Graf told me the first time I came here. He said, treat it like your favourite country road. You've got to be thinking, about driving at 80-85%
right,
only.
Interesting. Yeah,
and
so
every time you come back around, well, at the front of the field they are.
They are, definitely,
the GT3 drivers. But, otherwise you're going to be in trouble very quickly. Pentanix, thanks very much. Prior, he reminds us, is a full season WTCR driver for Link & Co.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That just shows how to touch arm with World Touring cars.
WTCR it's called now, for start off.
It's not called World Touring cars?
There's been too many clashes. No, WTCR.
What does the WTCR stand for?
World TCR, I guess.
Not touring cars.
TCR stands for touring car racing, but it's a different thing from WTCC, because the formula was built out of the fact that Marcello Lotti fell out with the guys who were running touring cars and went off and basically looked at GT3 and GT4 and said, if I did this for touring cars, I think I could make a bit of cash out of that, and more power to his elbow. Well done. Lincoln Co to me always sounds like I should be able to go in there and buy a present for somebody's anniversary.
Or a 60s band. Very similar to the Monkeys, though.
Yes.
In sound.
Yeah, they never had the same kind of success though as the Monkeys. No. Very good.
The Lant Audi, meanwhile, is on a pretty good lap at the moment. This is the number 29 car. Christopher Mies, Christopher Haase, Kelvin van der Linde and René Rast, the drivers of that car. And René Rast and Christopher Haase are doing double duty, potentially, this weekend, because they're also down as nominated drivers for Audi Sport Team Car Collection. There goes the Lant car across the line now. What's its time going to be? I think it was actually an improvement for the 29 cars. I thought that was going to be able to improve on that lap, but it didn't come up on the screen as being an improvement, was it? It was... no, it's just started its lap. In fact, that was its... it did a full lap of the Nordschleife before going on to its fast lap, so that's unusual, but you can go on to a fast lap straight from the Grand Prix loop, of course, but the Lant car deciding to go on a full lap and then go into its quali lap. But I was saying Christopher Haase, René Rast on both cars, both the Lant car and the Audi Sport Team Car Collection car, and they may actually do double duty. They can do double duty as long as they have a 2-hour break in the race between driving one car and the other.
Apparently WTCR stands for World Touring Car Cup. Yes, the last R is in Cup.
Yeah, I'm just
Thank you,
reading
John Meyer.
Yeah.
Do you count the Ford victories in the 80s with the Escort, Caprice, Sierra, Cosworths? Do you count those as German manufacturers?
Who is Ford? Yeah, why not? I mean, the 1980 Sierra Cosworth was a Ford Texaco racing team. Discuss whether that's a German team or not. And then we had...
it was manufacturer. We were talking about manufacturers.
Yes, and in the early 1980s, it was there were Fords entered by Eichberg Racing and Berkenkamp Racing, which are also kind of German entries, but running Fords. Interesting, having lived in... been brought up in England and always regarded Ford as being a British make. I then moved to the United States where everybody told me that Ford was an American make. I moved from the United States to Germany where people told me Ford was a German make.
Yeah.
And you can, I mean, that's the benefit of having a multinational like Ford.
Ford of Europe could be a German brand again. VW Group. Ford are looking to offload Ford of Europe, and VW Group, one of the suitors, although I do see that the Renault-Nissan partnership is falling apart at the moment. So is there a big demerger on the go? Darren Turner's just gone through and did not improve on his 944.444. 944.444. It's 10:17.237 last time around.
Relatively surprised by that, actually, because...
9:36.668. Hang on a second, what is that? So
Yeah, that's the last lap. The 9:44 was his last lap through. He's put a
what's the
1:36.
10:17.237 underneath it?
The what, sorry?
What's the 10:17.237
No
underneath?
idea. What does that mean?
The 9:36.668 was his time in free practice, I think.
That's his
check that
best
out.
lap, not necessarily in this session.
He
really?
certainly hasn't done a 9:36.
That's not confusing at all, is it?
The timing screens here have been changed since last year, and it's going to take us a wee while, possibly till Monday morning, to get used to them.
Monday afternoon.
There's an awful lot of information on it, and really only the car number and the position that it's in is of any great use. We're working on another wave.
Well, I haven't got a 9:36 on this morning's practice at all.
No, I'll go along with that. I just wonder whether that column saying best is the theoretical time
optimum
that
time
is being used by the organisers in order to decide whether or not a car is qualified for top qualifying.
Which is your best sectors all added together?
Yes, but not
by one single driver or by anybody who's in the car?
By anybody who's in the car, because it's trying to see if the car is good enough for top qualifying. But it's not the 9 sectors that we can see, at least according to the notes that I was given about how top qualifying was going to work. It's a sum of 42 sectors.
42, of course
42.
it is, because that's the answer to everything.
You're not going to like it.
Thankfully, we haven't got 42 sector times on a screen in front of us.
It would be complicated, wouldn't it? Anyway, so...
it would take up the whole wall. We'd have to project it onto the whole wall.
He's come back into the pits as Darren Turner.
So what time did he... Can somebody tell me, out
That's
of all
why
that
he's coming to the
information...
pits. He's coming to find out what time he's put in.
9:44.444 was his time on his first flying lap, and his second flying.
The last 2 times, or we're saying the last lap
and his
and
best
the
lap.
best lap in this session?
Yes. What that lap is over on the right-hand side, I have no clue.
Okay.
Is the
Excellent.
last lap in yellow?
No.
So
Maybe. I don't know.
Is that the last? So obviously
This is worked great on radio, mate.
Yes, I know. Well, I'm just talking out loud at the moment.
The best
So
way
is
to talk, Joe.
the lap time in yellow is the last lap through, but the white, the lap time in white is the best lap time by that driver
In that session.
in that session so
Maybe.
far.
I've no
Keep an
clue.
eye on that and see if
I
that
actually
moves.
have no clue.
Well,
It doesn't
maybe
correspond to any any way of displaying times I've ever seen on a timing screen.
We'll maybe
anywhere
get
in
an
the world.
idea about as we get into this session and see that change or not change. So,
See, there's
the
purples.
There's
There's
the
purples.
17.
Right, hang
there's
on.
the
There's,
17.
hang on. There's purples. You see, there's purple sectors, which
Purple
I understand.
sectors, yes.
Purple sectors.
Yeah.
There's greens, which is the best for that car, and there's faster speeds within those sectors, which is mildly useful, I suppose. Just takes up a line you don't need. But basically, dear listener and viewer, each car on our timing screens have got 2 lines to it, and that means we've only got 20 cars on each page of timing. And we don't have team names, we don't have proper driver identifiers, we've got some very big gaps and wasted space on there.
We've got car numbers.
Yeah, that's useful.
And we've got 3 letters from the driver's surname, which isn't helpful when you get a car with more than one driver with the same surname. The Krolls come to mind.
It isn't even helpful at all, because that means you've still got to look at your entry list, don't you?
All the time.
Yeah. Steve Jans is in the 14 Porsche, apparently. And he is... So the 14 car... Sorry, the 15. Oh, I see. That's not... Okay, they've swapped that round this year as well. All right, so that is the number 8 Porsche, which is the Iron Force by Ring Police, is it? Yes, that it is. He's the Luxembourg driver. We came through Luxembourg on the way here. Spent precisely 17 minutes in Luxembourg.
I missed it.
Did you? Were you asleep? You blinked. You're going faster than us then in the mighty Hyundai. So they're actually not doing so bad at the moment, because they're sitting in 15th position. And he's due across the line in 1 minute 40. That I can see from the screen. That's the ETA thing. He's on the dot to go home now. Beautiful evening though. Lovely plumage.
Yeah, and that fog's beginning to lift in those lower parts of the circuit.
Yeah?
Beginning
I'd
to
agree with
burn
that.
off. Yeah, still a bit of heat in that sun. Time is it? 9 p.m. here in Germany, and you wouldn't think it with the heat and the sunshine still. Tomorrow being the longest day, the shortest night. 21st of June.
I think you'll find the day's exactly the same length as it always is. It'll be 24
the
hours.
dark's less, isn't it?
Do you mean the most hours of sunshine, potentially?
Well, yeah.
Daylight.
Daylight.
We ought really just to give credit, although we haven't had any properly quick times, that the fastest time of the session so far by one of the alternative fueled cars, that being the number 320 car. So we just lost me interest.
That's the...
It's 80 is the class, and it's car number 320, which
There's
is
2, aren't there?
Team Care for Climate. It's a car which has Smudo aboard, amongst others. The driver who set the time, Axel Dufner, and it's a Porsche GT3 Cup 2 spec of car. And alongside Axel Dufner, who set the time, and Daniel Schellhaas, Smudo, and Thomas von Lerver of Menard.
So he's done 1 lap, and he's got...
No, leave it.
I
doesn't
am.
matter.
I'm walking away from that, because I do not understand what that
No,
timing screen's
nobody
telling me.
does.
That is... Anyways.
Leave it.
Right.
Leave it. AT AT class leader is the fastest overall then?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, he's the only guy who's got down into
well
the
done.
920s.
What's alternative about the AT fuel then?
It's a
Is that natural
bio.
gas?
It's a bio.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a biofuel.
Bioethanol.
It's a petrol, but it's a bio petrol.
Made
Like
out of-
cellulosic ethanol or something like that?
Yeah, made out of rapeseed, isn't it?
Is it?
Usually, yes.
Well, no, cellulosic ethanol is not made out in plenty. But we had it in the American Le Mans series about 15 years ago. It's made out of mainly waste paper and waste paper and cardboard.
Right, that might be, but we're not sure about what the fuel is in that
Right.
one.
Does that mean they've got a separate fueling area, Paul?
Yes, they have, and if we stand
Look
up
to our
behind
right.
us, we can see it. Yeah, it's under the easy ups, and there's a separate pit lane entrance where for the fueling for the alternative fuel cars. Everybody else who gets normal fuel gets fueled at the pumps in front of the garages, but the AT, the alternative fuel cars, get fed by. You come into a slightly earlier pit lane entrance off the main pit lane to go in to get your fueling from that area.
So
if you're around the circuit, you need to be looking out for Earl Bamber at the wheel of the 911 Manti Porsche, because you can certainly read the times well enough to tell he's setting purple sector times in the first 2 sectors on the Nordschleife. Wasn't quite as quick as other cars have been on the Grand Prix Strecke, but going out onto the Nordschleife, Earl Bamber in the 911 Porsche going very rapidly, and the other Manti Porsche in the hands of Fred Macavici is also going very rapidly. That's the number 1 car on the early part of the lap still, but we'll keep those in mind. The 2 Manti cars on a bit of a tear at the moment, I reckon.
JP de Oliveira is behind the wheel of the number 38 Nismo. That car entered by KCMG, shares with Josh Burden, Christian Menzel and Philip Vlasic. Now, Philip Vlasic stuck that car in the wall early on, just before the session was prematurely ended. JP touted as a single-seater star not so very long ago, Japanese Super Formula, and has rather quietened down in his career, but good to see him here. Clearly still got the passion as he turns into Tiergard.
I found he was a typical single-seater driver single-seater drivers tend to be on the absolute limit every time they get in a car and optimising every single braking point, every single turning point. And it's not quite like that in long-distance sports car racing. It's
I don't know.
I mean in every session.
Oh, well, there's no point in sticking the car in the barriers in the first, on your out lap, is there?
No. But like you say, he's calmed down. They've done a great job in repairing that car, because that car looks pristine and right and operational.
Still is a bit of low cloud out on the other side of the track.
Garden as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's quick. Very quick there. Waiting for Earl Bamber, identified by Paul Truswell as on a quickie. Bam Bam, due in a couple of 3 minutes. We expect to see him coming out of the Flats Garden area, and you can't miss the Grello car. Just a bit further back round the circuit at the moment, heading down into one of the best places to watch, down at Brünchen, up through the ice curve and heading towards Flans Garden now. That car, apart from standing out very well in the gloomy part of the circuit, this is the one that's yellow and green rather than the other one which is green and yellow, I think.
I don't think the vision will be impaired for the drivers. I think that it looks much worse for us because we're looking at it from above and we're looking through the cloud. I think
you're looking down through the cloud with the cameras.
I think the drivers will probably find it a lot easier.
Using all the road, Earl.
If they're not, they don't look like they are impeded by it.
Fred Macavici doing a similar job in the green and yellow rather than the yellow and green.
I love that livery. I
Yeah.
love
The
that.
Grello.
Yeah, love it.
I think we're probably going to get the 2 Manti cars first and second by the end of the respective laps that they're on at the moment, John. You say it will be the 911 car across the line first, the predominantly yellow one, with Earl Bamber at the wheel, coming onto the Dottinger Hohe now, and the number 1 car, just as he comes onto the Dottinger Hohe, the number 1 car just entering sector 7, which means he's going up towards the carousel.
Interesting, though, that Bamber in sector 6. Let me just go
Sector
through.
7.
No, I'm looking at the Sector 6 times.
Oh, I
and
see,
speeds.
right, yep.
No, he was a bit quicker. It's interesting just to compare the top speeds that we now have in each sector, as well as the times. We've had those in the past. Here comes Earl Bamber then, coming through Tiergarten, back onto the start line. There, you can see him if I look to the right hand side. He's got a Clio who's going to join in, but he's crossed the line, and that is a 8:57.477, and that's just a bit quicker than JP Oliveira. I was about to say he's the first man into the 8s. He's not, because Oliveira did it about 3 or 4 minutes ago and had, for a brief moment then, been at the top of the timing and scoring for KCMG Nissan. Now, where's Frederick Makowiecki? He's got a couple of minutes to run, if that, as he heads through the final triple pressure corner, or heads towards the final triple pressure corner before the Dottinger.
He's not as quick though, John. He's gone green in those sectors, whereas Earl Bamber was purple.
He's not going to be far away though.
He's in sector 7 now. No, he's certainly. I think we're going to have a Manthey 1-2.
He's going to have to keep his foot in if he's going to beat the KCMG Nissan. And there's an Audi behind him that is. Now, is that an Audi?
Yes.
Yes, it is. There's an Audi behind him that's also keeping pace.
I think he got held up there.
Just going by one of the i30 fastbacks, one of them already in the wall. And the Audi's certainly keeping pace, and that is impressive. In fact, if anything, the Audi beginning to close down on the Dottinger.
Is that the Conrad car, John?
Yes, it is. No.
If it is
Conrad
the Conrad
Audi?
car,
Yeah, it's a Lamborghini,
then
yeah.
It's the,
Spoke with Francis yesterday as we were bailing out of the track. He was coming at the track on a scooter with what looked to be 4 pizzas for the team, but they were lying on their side on his scooter. Then it was only when I looked closely I realised there were a new set of brake discs.
Oh, class. Yeah. Because the pizzas would have been in a right state.
Right
wouldn't they?
mess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alzoni.
that is.
it's the Lamborghini. It's the Conrad.
It is the
Lamborghini.
Conrad Lamborghini. Yeah, so
seven,
difficult to tell.
Looks a lot like an Audi.
7 car from above.
Sounds a lot
Scarily.
like an Audi,
Yeah.
but it was actually closing on the Manthey Porsche, wasn't it? All the way down the Dottinger Hoa.
So Makowiecki does an 8:52.9. So he's gone to the lead. No, he's got the second.
He's gone to second because the Conrad Lamborghini, which was following him down the straight, has gone into the absolute top spot.
He went into the lead for about a second.
And that's why Makowiecki's sector times weren't showing purple, was because the Lamborghini behind it was taking those purple sectors.
Didn't take the purple sectors
didn't,
either.
no.
So that's pretty impressive. So who is it that's in that car? The 7 will be.
It's Michele Di Martino.
Is it?
Yes.
How do they get MAK from that then?
MAR.
That's MAR.
MAK is
Right, yeah,
Makowiecki,
all right, sorry.
And MAR is Michele.
I tell you what, I'm
Martino.
never going to speak of anything on the timing screen again. I'm just going to say the blue one and the red one. All right?
It's going to be a lot easier when we get into the race, isn't it?
Do you think?
Well, they're going to be first, second, third, or fourth. It's not going to be. We're not going to have anyone shooting from 20th up to third, like we have now in qualifying. Plus, I don't know. I have no idea what this column's for. This lap time here.
Well,
there's
don't
no
worry,
resemblance to
just
anything.
forget it. Just forget it now.
Di Martino then at the front of the field with that cracking time, and followed Makowiecki across the line, and in so doing put Makowiecki, who was for just a microsecond fastest in this session.
Kevin Heisterman has tweeted in to RSL Studio using the hashtag N24RSL. So don't forget, JP drove somewhat successfully in Super GT in Japan, which may have tempered single-seater tendencies. Not unusual, that, of course, because they tend to share weekends. One of the drivers who have done both in the past said to me, we do Super Formula for the money and Super GT for the fun. which I thought was reasonable.
Got a slow zone appeared at Swalsenbach.
At where?
Schwalbenschwanz, sorry.
Right.
didn't
You didn't zoom that out
enough. Yeah. Schwalbenschwanz. It's on the outward section.
Porsche off the road. Red and white Cayman. And that's the...
Trying to get a number for you, John.
131. That's one of the Pixum Adrenaline cars, isn't it? Who are at pit out this year, as Paul was telling us earlier on.
It is, well spotted, mate. It's the Pixum Team Adrenaline Porsche Cayman. And it's got Smirlis, Lonas Smirnis is at the wheel. That car coming to a halt.
Ionis.
Pulling off, it looked like. Doesn't look like he's hit anything. Looks like he's had the car just come to a halt and he's just got half of the car on the grass on driver's right.
Well, that's going to put a paid to anybody improving times, of course, in that sector. This is a qualifying session.
Yeah.
With still 2 hours and 13 minutes of it, well, we're not going to expend too much energy and get too excited about these early times coming in. Earl Bamber's going quicker again out on the circuit.
New fastest lap for the Nissan, John. JP de Oliveira, you were trying to talk about him last time around. He's now gone quickest again.
It's the 38 KCMG blue, white and black car that we're talking about. So I can do blue, white and black. Can't read the timing screens, can't make head and tail of them, but I can tell you what colour it is.
And we can tell you he's in first place.
Yeah.
And his lap time was an 8 minute 48.6.
Bam Bam's pushing on as well.
And I was confidently expecting, I said within the first half hour, well, I was out on that because they're already nearly an hour into this session. But I think by the time we get an hour in, we will be down into the 8.25s compared to the 8.27 we had in the free practice session earlier today.
Earl Bamber, I just glanced across. One of the things that does happen is the sector times disappear very quickly as well. But in the nanosecond that we had before it did leave the screen, Bamber's taken 2 and 3 seconds a sector out of Oliveira. So if he gets a clear run to the line, and he's into the low cloud again now as he heads into the last third of the lap. 8.45.385 is what he's got to beat. He's down through Flansgaard now, the New Zealander. Now turns right. Oh, and there's a course vehicle just beyond the Kleiner Carousel. Now, that might just catch him out. He's got a BMW right ahead, and he has to lift there as he comes into the Kleiner Carousel. What a shame. That's cost him time. And that is to go and pick up double waved yellows there and code 60. And that has absolutely ruined his lap, but had to have that because of that Porsche.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Pixum Adrenaline car.
It's actually a 120 zone, not that that's going to make any difference
no,
whatsoever.
Code 60 flags out.
We've got a Mercedes that's
there were
just
code 60 flags out.
Oh, the code
purple
60 gone
flags
to 60.
Yeah, purple flags
yes,
were
it has.
out.
It's gone to 60. It's just changed.
Falcon Motorsports right in behind him there, Joe, as well, with Peter Dumbrek in the 33.
Great
Falcon doing... spoke to him at Le Mans last week. He looks fitter than a butcher's dog's personal trainer. As we've become used to seeing Falcon running a couple of cars, 2 different cars. BMW M6 is the 33, and that's the one that Peter is in.
I just wanted to mention we've got a Mercedes gone quickest because it's not going to be there for very long. That's looking very much like the BMW of Peter Dumbreck's going to snaffle that because he's got 4 purple sectors.
That's Jan Seyfarth, who was in every car in the Seyfarth Audi Trophy earlier on.
Wasn't Jan, but never mind. There is an Audi trophy race sponsored by Seyfarth. It'll be interesting to see what Earl Bamber's time is here because of that slow zone, code 60 zone that he came to, and his time at the end of the laps. Still an improvement on his previous best, 8:49.738. But this is the trouble. So rarely do you get a clear lap at the Nurburgring. And if you get a code 60 in it, then it's even harder. And that's why, for the top qualifying, they're using all of these, what I'll call microsectors, in order to work out whether you're in the top qualifying or not.
It's unnecessarily complicated.
I think somebody from Royal Racing was quoted as saying it made it a little bit intransparent, if there is such a word, to the spectator.
It's a dark art, isn't it? Dumbo did improve. No, he didn't actually. Oh no, he must have. 9:11.233.
Yes.
So that pushed the BMW number 33 up to 13th position. Having said that Falcon have got another car, I can't find it on the list.
Yes, they have usual two.
Yeah.
They have their Porsche and BMW. And you'll tell us which numbers they are, John? Or,
is it 33 and 66, is it?
Falcon Motorsports 33 and...
No, it's not 66. That's what I expected. They normally have numbers that are related. That's confused me massively, and I literally can't find it on the list.
33 and 44.
Oh, they
33 is the BMW, 44 is the Porsche.
With Martin Ragginger in it, Jörg Bergmeister, Klaus Bachler, and Dirk Werner. Names to conjure with, I would say, in a Porsche. Those four.
Indeed, so
that's got to be him with a chance. Where is that car then? The 44 at the moment, not showing in the first page.
The 44 is one of the cars that is already in the top qualifying, so wouldn't have come out for the first 20 minutes of the session anyway.
Right.
Although we are nearly an hour into the session, so it is, if you will, allowed out at this stage.
They might be having an early dinner.
And it hasn't yet done a lap, so the 44 car currently still in the pit garage.
That Mercedes is still at the top of the screen. I didn't expect that. I thought that was going to be snatched from him, but I think that slow zone caused that to remain. Number 16, still quickest with a 8 minutes 45.3.
It's the two Rover Racing BMWs, 99 and 98, currently in 6th and 7th place in the timings for this evening. Nicky Katzberg has just left the pits in the number 99 car, and in the number 98 car, that car is out on the circuit at the moment, and that's in the hands of Mikkel Jensen. That's the number 98, Rover Racing running the two BMWs as usual. The other BMWs that I've not yet had cause to mention are the Valkenhorst cars running as number 100 and 101. The two M6 Valkenhorst cars. It was the Valkenhorst car which won the qualifying race, of course, which John and I were commentating on.
Yeah.
Christian Krogner's, David Pittard, Nick Yellerly, joined for this race by Lucas Ordonez. So Valkenhorst, I mean, they won the Spa 24 hours last year. They won the Nurburgring 24 qualifying race, and as the, how can I put it, perhaps the less favoured of the BMW teams, because certainly Rover Racing is the more favoured, they did a very good job in all those, well, both of those races that they won, and I think they'd dearly like to win this one as well. At the moment, though, the best BMW is down in fifth place now. Car number 42 is the Schnitzer BMW, which currently has Sheldon van der Linde at the wheel of it, and that's in fifth place with an 8 minutes 50.
Jan Seyfarth back to the top, as Joe mentioned. He's got traffic out on the circuit. I think he's got his teammate in front of him. No, he hasn't. Sorry, it was a glitch on the screen there.
He got past him, I think.
Yeah. The TV feed that we've got is a bit pixely and a bit jumpy. So you'll be watching, and then all of a sudden the cars will jump forward 200 metres.
Seyfarth not on schedule to beat his time. He's not got any green or purple sectors.
It's Adam Christodoulou that he just went past.
That's who he went past, yeah.
In the number 2 Mercedes AMG.
Yeah, we've not mentioned either
Black
of the
Falcon?
Black Falcon Mercedes.
Not in black, or
Yeah.
Falconish, in fairness.
No, red for the number 3, orange for the number 2. Adam Christodoulou currently...
That's going to take some getting used to, isn't it?
Adam Christodoulou currently outside the top 30. Number 2, yes, he's so I'm showing him in 32nd place, but I think he's a bit further down than that at the moment. Oh no, he hasn't done a lap, that's why. Adam Christodoulou is on his out lap at the moment.
3 wide coming onto the Dottinger Hohe as Adam Christodoulou got a great run, and Jan Seyfarth, flashing his lights, had got caught up in behind one of the Porsches, which was I think it was the Care for Climate car, the 420, that was going through. Oh, that's interesting. My list has 420 on that, but funny enough, I thought it said 320 on the side of it. I just guessed it was.
There is another Care for Climate car which is 320.
Is there?
But
which isn't on my entry list, rather helpfully.
Right.
I go from 301 to 420.
Right. You're missing page 14 of the entry list, I suspect.
So on page 14 of the entry list. So did he improve? That's the question. Jelmer Berman. Is that Jelmer Berman in the 6 car? B-oo-oo?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good guess.
Christodoulou has gone up to 15th in the times, with a time of 9 minutes 04 for Adam. And the other Black Falcon Mercedes, number 3, is currently 21st in the lists, and that's got Lukas Stolz behind the wheel of it at the moment, and he's done a best time of 9 minutes 11 seconds. Black Falcon, of course, don't have to worry about being in top qualifying.
Mako's on another good one, Joe.
Yeah, Christodoulou did Seyfarth a big favour by overtaking him, just going on to the Dottinger Hohe, because Seyfarth got a brilliant and huge toe off him, and he's gone quicker. 8:42.024 for Seyfarth last time by.
Even though he was held up?
I don't think he was held up.
He was held up by the Porsche.
Yes, he was slightly held up by the Porsche, but then he was able to get on the back of Christodoulou all the way down the Dottinger Hohe, and before they got to the Tiergarten, he was able to get by him.
Here's Makoviecki coming into our view. We look to the right-hand side. Beautiful colours of evening, mixed in with the brightness of racing headlights and the extremely bright colours of the Manthey Racing Porsches. Trees on the Tiergarten are looking fabulous and obscuring the view back down the straight more than I can ever remember. They've clearly had a good summer. Very much blocked by the Pixum Adrenaline 140 Club Sport. That's one of the Caymans out there, and that cost a couple of 3 seconds, but it still puts Makoviecki at the front. 8:37.750, and he should have been on for something like a 34.
Yeah.
So a good couple of seconds went awry there.
Just about an hour into the session, not quite an hour into the session, 2 hours still to go, and although this is ostensibly a night qualifying session, still pretty much full daylight, and still looking across outside, I can still see quite clearly across to that area of low cloud that John and Joe have been referring to. I just wonder if that might be exacerbated by a little bit of extra barbecue smoke or lots of...
Yes.
I mean, there are an awful lot of people burning an awful lot of wood out there in the campsites, and that will only contribute to...
Nine's first non-SP9 is the SPX leader, which is the Glickenhaus, the SCG. Thomas Much in the 705 car, and 9:11.238, the best time for that car. 25th sees the first of the SP7s. It's a Porsche, the number 64, and that's done a 9:13.439. Alternatively fueled 320 Porsche. In 27th position, leads this class with a 9:20.8. SP8 is an Audi, the 148 car. and that is in 30th position overall with a 9:24.055. SP8T, that's the Aston class, isn't it? Well, that's been led at the moment by the number 40 BMW, which has now got a red mark next to it saying out, but I presume that means it's just come out of the pits, does it?
That's right, yes.
So that's a BMW M2 competition for Schubert Motorsport. That car. SP3T, one place behind, is the number 88. That one I know, because that's a Subaru. And I would have thought they'd have been relishing the sticky conditions earlier on, or the slick conditions earlier on, in their WRX STI, and by Subaru Technica International, which is the STI, so effectively a works or semi-works entry there. SP10 is the Aston Martin, the number 68 car. Now, I've got a feeling that number 68, I'll have to ask. That is a proper GT4, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's the car that you have seen before, John, because it's the car that you saw at Brno and thought that's the Aston Martin that should be running with Nico Verdonk.
Yes,
and,
it's the Pro Sport car.
It's
white, red and black. It's a very striking car. It rumbled past us when we were walking in on Wednesday, didn't it?
It's that car, but it's in the hands of Jörg Wiban, Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Jonas Lapalainen.
Are they all Scandinavian by any chance?
Jonas Lapalainen, yes, except for Jörg Wiban.
He's German.
He's a German. But
the
others are. Go on.
TCR leader, we're still in the top 40 here. That's Hyundai, the 170 car. Big effort by Hyundai here for WTCR and for this category. A new i30N street car on display as well, and that is the i30N TCR Peter Terting car. I suppose he'll be the driver that you'll know the best from that. Andreas Gulden as well knows his way around here very well. And finishing off a couple more classes, SP6, the 125 Porsche is leading SP6 in 44th position, and that is the Setup Wizard Racing. That's fantastic, we like them. Cup Class 5 for BMWs, that's the newly named BMW 240i Cup. Well, it's the 235, the number 235, that leads. Is that a Bonk car or a Black Falcon car? Let's have a look. 235 is neither. It's FK Performance Motorsport. Well done for them then. And to finish off the top 60, because that's the screens we've got up at the moment, there's another class leader, the 303 Porsche in Cup 3, and Cup 3 is a all Porsche class for Cayman GT4 Club Sports, and that's a 718 Cayman, and that's, other than your Cup X leader, yes, that's still in there as well. The 57th position for the 111, which is a KTM Crossboard GT4, that's the one with the roof on it, and Laura Kreiheimer is driving that car at the moment, as she was early on when she led briefly in the difficult conditions.
New fastest lap overall to the Schnitzer team BMW. Sheldon van der Linde in the number 42 car, setting the top time at 8 minutes 35.760 now for Sheldon van der Linde. He's into the pits though, 1.9 seconds clear of the Manthey Porsche of Fred Macavici. Joe is watching a fast Mercedes.
Yeah, it's the Yelmer Berman, Paul. He's about to go quickest, I would think. He's already put 4 purples.
Car number 6.
4 purples, 4 greens, green being personal best, purples being overall best. He's just about to cross the line now. Let's have a look at the time he's green. He does indeed go quickest, 8:27.919. So it's changing every single lap, isn't it?
Yeah, we're now down to the kind of times that I thought we were getting down to, I must admit, after the first half hour of the session. So we're now within a tenth or a few tenths of a second of the fastest lap from the earlier free practice session. Jelmer Berman in the third. I said 2 Black Falcon Mercedes.
Did I mention the number there, Paul?
Number
He's in the
6.
number 6 Mercedes.
I slipped it in. The third of the 3 Black Falcon Mercedes. There's some other Black Falcon cars, Porsches
Christopher
running as
Dooley
well.
to second, just
So
going through.
Black Falcon
And
1-2 now.
Van der Linde has pitted the Schnitzer BMW. Mathieu Jaminet still running in the Frickadelli Racing team, up to 4th position for that red and white Porsche. Then Fred Machiavecchi in the number 1.
That's my punt at the overall win.
The number
What's that?
31.
The number 31, the Frickadelli Racing.
Have you seen who's in it?
Roman Dumas, Matt
Because he
Campbell.
knows his way around here. Having just broken a record.
It's all a bit slow for him, this
Yeah,
one. This though.
Be able to do it with one hand tied behind his back.
Absolutely. Matt Campbell, Sven Muller,
Matty.
and Matt Jaminet.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
All Porsche, effectively all Porsche factory drivers.
Yeah.
Romain Dumas, 4 times a winner of the Nurburgring 24 hours, as well as record breaker in various different types of cars. But
Most latterly in the VW R1 electric.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting this. I'm interested in your views as well, because the Aberlin cars, the Frickadelli cars, often very quick, but I don't know, they often just seem to suffer from bad luck as well. But, I mean, certainly the drivers of that number 31 car, the eye is drawn to them. But I just wonder if they can keep the car running all through the day and all through the night, and the trials and tribulations of the 24 hours of the Nürburgring.
I think that's a decision from my heart rather than my head.
Just after a few hamburgers at the end of the race,
I was just looked at the driver lineup and thought, wow, that
Yeah.
is a quality driver lineup.
Well,
The Glickenhaus, by the way, number 705, just crossing the line there. This is the last time we'll see the SCG.
Goes up at the 10th, by the way, for Thomas
003C.
Munch.
Up to 10th.
Yeah.
There's a new Glickenhaus on the way, and this is the last
Several new Glickenhaus.
Yes, Jim Glickenhaus announcing that he's going to turn his attention fully to the new one now and retire. So this is the swan song for the SCG 003.
Also building copies of the Steve McQueen Beach Buggy, the boot, to go and race in the Baja Racing at the moment, plus a GT3, plus a GT4, and a hypercar.
They're making copies of that McQueen buggy, are they really?
Oh yeah. They moved into their new premises a wee while ago now. They've taken over what used to be originally it used to build huge turntables for rotating restaurants or
nightclubs,
railway engines and things like that.
Right,
So it's a big round, big circular building. And Duncan Dayton had it for his race team up in Connecticut. And there's a little airport next to it as well, very handy.
He's also.
And Glickenhaus have taken that over now.
Is that where he's going to be? I mean,
That's where he's building the cars.
Interest in the hypercar rigs.
He said they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Although
so
they
that's
were
where that's going to come out of.
Oddly ignored in the announcement on Friday, having been the first people to commit to it.
No mention of Brabham as well, potentially being.
Brabham said they were going to do a GTE car last time that David talked to us on the radio. Adam Christodoulou not hanging about, coming up to Arenberg at the top of the Vauxhall. Christodoulou, quickest for him on the first part of the Grand Prix sector. Second place for him. He's got traffic through the Vauxhall. Need to keep off the curbs down here because they'll still be slippery, and there's just about a one car's width. He's going to catch traffic exactly where he doesn't want to. So he starts to climb the hill on the other side of the Vauxhall. While Marcel Fessler now pushing on as well for Audi number 14, which is the... what is that? Is that one of the Phoenix cars? It's car collection, of course it is.
That's another car that I went, wow. Marcus Winkelhock, Christopher Haase, Marcel Fessler and René Rast in that car. Is there a weakling there?
Spot the weakling.
No.
As I say, and the strength in that team, Christopher Haase and René Rast, also going to be in the Lant Audi. So in one way or another, they're going to haul one of those two cars up the field.
Have you noticed how many, it's lovely this time of night, how many of the cars have got bright glowing red exhaust pipes? They are being run at the absolute optimum. The engines will love this air temperature at the moment. It's fat air.
What's the air temp, by the way? Let's have a check.
Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah,
You asked a question that only you can answer because you're the only person who's got the app.
It's 16 degrees.
We've got the door
Celsius.
open, so it can't be that cold.
So we're going to have a track temp of about 27, 28
Well,
degrees out there.
nah, I
would
doubt
say.
it. I don't think it's anywhere
You
near that.
reckon
The
not?
sun hasn't been on it long
Usually
enough.
you can put 10 or 12 degrees on.
Only if the sun's been on it.
It's been raining,
No,
remember?
well,
been
it
raining
retains
and
the
cloudy.
heat. Ah, of course, it's been raining.
Cloudy.
Yeah, of course.
What-
about 20
what-
degrees.
What I was slightly
that.
surprised by, you were commenting on it a moment ago, John, when you were describing the view that Adam Christodoulou had. There's a lot of the track that still has a lot of damp patches
Yeah.
on, and I'm surprised by that in a way, because there's no question that slicks are the order of the day. You're certainly not. You don't need to do anything but slicks. But it's not flat out slicks. You've got to be a bit tippy-toey and sensitive to how much grip there is around. And the grip will be coming in more and more and more the longer this session proceeds.
But that is when good drivers shine.
Absolutely.
Some drivers don't like that. Some drivers like to be on the ragged edge. They like to have all that grip and they exploit it. There are other drivers who, and it's not always the people you think either. There'll be some GT4 drivers and some of the other class drivers who will be, relatively speaking, closer at the front of the field now than they've ever been, because they're good in these intermediate conditions. And I call it that not because they've got intermediate tyres on, but because there's a bit of wet, there's a bit of dry. So you're having to feel, as you turn the car in, you're having to feel, is the grip there? Can I push a bit harder? And every time you come back to the track, which here is 8.5, 9 minutes later, it might have changed for the better. It might have changed for the worse.
When I was about 12,
Love this track for that.
When I was about 12, I was an avid motorsport reader. It was the only motorsport that I got really was through the Motorsport magazine. And I remember Dennis Jenkinson talking about seat of the pants driving. As a 12-year-old, I had no idea what he meant, but now I'm a bit older, I do know what he means. And it's exactly that ability that you've just described, John, to be able to take the car to its limit, even though the limit is different on every
Correct.
corner, and being able to judge where that limit is and how hard you can push.
Any idea who MER is in the 10th position car at the moment, which is the Mercedes Black Falcon? I've got Maxi Berg, Hugert Hout, Thomas Jäger and Lucas Stoltz in that car.
Which numbered car?
The number 3
3
car. So Maxi Berg, Hubert Haupt, Thomas Jäger and Lucas Stoltz, and the driver identifier is MER.
MER.
Answers on a postcard?
It's Thomas Jäger, I'm told, who's driving the number 3 at the moment.
So he's MER how?
Well, it's a Mercedes, so maybe you're reading the Mercedes line.
Oh yeah, I am. That's right.
There's no driver.
So there's no driver in it.
Okay, so it's Thomas Jäger who's driving it.
Right.
He's just forgotten to set the signal or the timekeeping which interprets what the signal says and puts the 3 letters onto it.
Okay,
So
same for number 30 as well, the
car is
Fricatelli
the
Racing team.
Mercedes. The number 30 car has got Alex Muller behind the wheel. I wonder if it's umlauts that's confusing the system. Because Alex Muller has an umlaut and Thomas Jäger has an umlaut, and the system isn't able to create a 3-letter abbreviation for those cars. I'm guessing, but knowing how computer system, although it can cope with a little umlaut on Fessler, on the number 14 car.
Yeah, but he's Swiss.
Yes, but this is
That's
Vega.
a Swiss umlaut.
This is Vega, though, which is German. Anyway.
Well, that's what I mean. So, he's different.
Ilma Berman going through onto another lap. A lot of laps now being done, John and Joe. I mean, it's certainly noticeable that the track is a little bit busier now than it was at the beginning. Okay, we didn't have the top qualifiers in at the beginning of the session, but there's a lot more traffic out there now. And although I think we're green all the way around at the moment.
Can you confirm that, Mr. Bradley?
What's that?
So we're green all the way around.
I'm looking for someone else on my 73-page document.
Of which I've only got 72.
Have you really?
Yeah.
That's unlucky.
I'm missing 30 cars.
Do you want me to look out the window?
No.
What?
Is it green roll around the track? You've got the app.
Yes, I've got
You're
the
the
app,
only one
haven't
that's
I?
got the app.
Standby caller. Hang on. Yes, it's green. We've got We have no slow zones or code 60s out there.
So I think the only thing that's blocking their way is arriving at slower traffic out on the circuit. Franz Conrad there getting his hands dirty on the underside or the under front right wheel arch of the Lamborghini. It was for a little while the quickest car out there, but the Lamborghini, having done a lap with Marco Mappelli at the wheel, it was Michele Di Martino who set the time in that car of 8 minutes 47.020, but Marco Mappelli then took the car out. Now it's come back into the pits, and just reading the body language a little bit there of Franz Conrad, all not necessarily exactly as it should be with the Conrad Lamborghini. Another car that's moved up the list, and one that I did mention earlier on and was suggesting that it's a car to look out for, is one of the two Glickenhaus BMWs, the car number 101, the winner of the qualifying race earlier this year. David Pittard currently at the wheel of the 101 BMW, and that's gone third fastest now, 8 minutes 32.074. So we've got Black Falcon Mercedes first and second, with Jelmer Berman and Adam Christodoulou at the wheels of number 6 and 2 respectively. Then the Glickenhaus BMW. Then we've got the Nissan, car number 39 is fourth fastest, and that now has Mathieu Vachivière at the wheel of it. He's fourth, 8 minutes 35.6. Fifth fastest is the Manthey Porsche number 1, Fred Macavici, having done an 8 minutes 35.6. Sixth fastest is the Schnitzer BMW, car number 42, Timo Scheider at the wheel of the Schnitzer BMW. That's sixth fastest, just gone through, although not improving its time. 8:35.7 is the best lap for that car. And then in seventh fastest is what from the rest of this weekend is going to be called Joe's Tip for the Top, the Fricadelli Racing Team car number 31, which currently has Matt Campbell at the wheel of it, and he's done a best lap of 8 minutes 36.494.
That's Paul Truswell. Sorry, Simon Strang from Aston Martin just came into the Aston Martin lounge.
Did he give us extra information? I was letting you talk to him so you could glean any information.
We were giving him information, and also came to congratulate Johnny Palmer on being the first of us to go under the 9-minute barrier on the simulator in here in the Aston Martin GT4. So
the track's clearly drying.
The track's clearly drying out now. So no traffic on your lap at all, says Palmer. He'll be here in about 15 minutes, and that'll give me the chance to go and try and beat that then.
The only reason
have I got to do it in the dark?
Carrying on down through the times, we got as far as the 31 Fricadelli Porsche in 7th. In 8th place is the 911 numbered Porsche. Kevin Estra has now taken over the wheel of the 911 car. That was in the hands of Fred Macavici of Earl Bamber earlier on, but Kevin Estra now out, and he's just improved to an 8 minutes 37.036. Then it's René Rast in the car collection Audi. If you want to drive, this is a worthwhile point making. If you want to drive two cars during the race, you have to qualify two cars during qualifying.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, I've done my qualifying in one car, that'll count for the other. It does in some series, but not in the Nurburgring 24 hours. If you want to drive two cars, you have to do your two qualifying laps in each of them.
Your umlaut theory doesn't hold water, I'm afraid, because the Setup Wizard Racing number 29, number 125 rather, is driven at the moment by Dr. Matthias Huttenrauch, and his three-letter acronym is H-U-umlaut N.
U is how you say U. Yeah.
But it's got an umlaut on it.
You've got one in second place as well, John. You don't have to go
You
far
got
down,
Müller. Yeah.
because Dirk-Müller has now taken over Adam Christodoulou's Mercedes. I'll call it Adam Christodoulou's Mercedes just
he was in it first.
He was in it first. Not his car. It's a Black Falcon car. But Adam, the team that Adam has, is a very strong team. Dirk-Müller, Manuel Metzger, Maro Engel, and he. I think it was those four that were actually sharing the car that finished second in last year's race. Very unfortunately for them, they felt they should have won the race. So did I. But that car, currently second fastest, Adam set the fast time earlier on, but Dirk-Müller has now improved, and we're now into 8 minutes 29.0 for Dirk-Müller in that car. So it's a Mercedes 1-2.
We've got a slow zone on the Grand Prix track on the run down to the Dunlop curve, which is the hairpin. The bottom of the hill. Car 78 has come to a halt. That's the rent-to-drive Familia Racing Porsche 997 in the GT3 Cup configuration, SP6 class. Not quite sure why or what has gone on there, but there's a slow zone and the car still showing being static there. I think it's been recovered behind the barrier now as we've taken in the slow zone. So that car looking, according to the tracker, still out there on the circuit, but not in harm's way.
Okay, it's quite possible because I think the tracker uses GPS signals that the car's been pulled behiund the barrier, so it can be pulled.
It'll show still on the track.
There, I remember years ago when the GPS systems were first brought on to a selection of cars, and we came back to the circuit on the Sunday morning and found various trackers positioned in villages in the middle of the circuit as they'd been retired and dragged back to the places where the teams were staying.
Yes, he's slightly gone off by about 3 miles.
Now they switch them off when they get to that place. Christopher Mies is at the wheel of the Lant Audi, number 29, another car that is a former winner of the race 2 years ago when, you might remember, there was chaos at the end of the race when it just started to rain and nobody knew quite which tyres to put on, but somehow Lant got it absolutely right.
Not necessarily for the right reasons. Is why you I just heard has stutter there. You went on to hit 7 cylinders for just a moment, but that was fine.
Was he not just hitting the limiter?
Don't show us your workings out as to why they went onto the right tyre at the right time, having had an engine glitch earlier on in the race. Anyway, that was the Lant car a couple of years ago that won this race. They're the number 29 car that's sharing that excellent driving lineup with the car collection car. The additional 2 drivers in the car being Kelvin van der Linde and Christopher Mies. And it's Mies at the wheel of the 29 Lant car at the moment. 8 minutes 38.559, the best lap that car has managed, which it did on its last flying lap.
Got a great showing from the 101. He's gone purple in sector 3.
This is the car that won the qualification race.
Yes. It's David Pittard at the wheel, guys.
David Pittard, mightily impressive in that qualifying race. He had the worst of conditions early on and drove the first in brilliantly.
One of those drivers, I feel, who's... I don't say this in a pejorative way, but he's on a very steep learning curve, but he's improving very, very quickly. I don't think, a couple of years ago, he'd necessarily have regarded him as a top Nordschleife driver, but now very much on the top of his game. And as you say, Joe, lapping quite quickly. He's coming up to the end of the Dottinger Hoa. His time he's got to improve upon is an 8:32.074. Now, I'm not sure if he got through the first sector with that code 60 in place that you were describing or not, because it was on the Grand Prix loop, and I think he might have been held up by that. But Joe,
we've got another one. We've got another slow zone as well, but it's Müller, which is way across the other side.
David Pittard, unfortunately showing his 3-letter acronym is PIT, Pit. I expected to see him dive off to the right there.
He's not in the pits.
And come into the lane. He's got up to 3rd position with an 8:32.0.
Yeah, his lap was slower though, John. It was an 8:37 on
yes.
that lap. So not an improvement.
Car 236 is the car that's causing the slow zone at Müller. That's the FK Performance Motorsport BMW.
That was the class leader earlier on.
Was it?
In the Cup Class 5, if I remember right. I remember reading them out. So I think that was the class leader.
think it was, that's right, in the BMW M240i class.
Dr. Tennille, who played an absolute blinder at Le Mans, has tweeted in N24RSL is the hashtag. Just talking about the top qualification. So, having read the qualification rules, Doctor says, I can confirm the top 3 go up against Boris Johnson in a vote, whilst 4th place has a playoff against Estonia.
And he'll know because he's a doctor.
He is.
Is he a real doctor?
Listen to him, this man, he's a doctor. I once had to use that on a rally stage.
You once had a what, sorry?
I once had a... it's a long story, I'll tell you afterwards.
Wait for the middle of the night.
Let's keep it for the middle of the night.
Middle of the night.
Remind me about the doctor story in the middle of
I'm making a note now.
Write that down.
Improvement for Timo Scheider in the Schnitzer BMW, and that's just done an 8:33.093 to go 4th fastest.
And 1st and 3rd come into the pits, Jelmer Berman and David Pittard. One of the nice things about here is if you've done your fast lap, you don't then have to go and do a slowing down lap for the whole of the 9 minutes around the Nordschleife. You can come back in and come back into the pit lane. Kenneth Hyatt in the Get Speed performance number 16. They're cycling through their drivers pretty quickly tonight.
2 laps each is the what it says on the job list, I suspect.
2 laps, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. We're not dark, by the way, for our listeners. They might be visualising it being night practice. We are pretty well lit across the whole of the track.
But does all of this session count as night practice?
There's
there's no such thing.
There's no such thing as night practice in the sense that you only have to do 2 laps. It doesn't matter whether you do them at night or during the daylight. The rule for qualifying is just 2 laps.
But what is important, Paul, is setting up the lights on the car to get some mileage. We've still got 90 minutes left, so 93 minutes.
It's
plenty of time.
It's 5 to 10. We were out last night, Joe. I think what brought us in was the fact that the weather was deteriorating rather than the fact that it was going dark last night. And I say we were out. We were sitting around a table discussing the strategy for the race, weren't we?
You made it sound like we were out.
Yes, we were outdoors. But anyway, point being, it's nearly 10 o'clock in the evening. The session goes on until 11:30. It will be fully dark by the end of it, but currently there is still enough light to see, although everybody has their headlights on. But Jelmer Berman then in the fastest car. He's done 3 laps. Adam Christodoulou did 2 before he came in to hand it over to Dirk Muller. David Pittard has taken over the 101 BMW, and that has been driven so far by Lucas Ordóñez. So David Pittard is just out of that car. Lucas Ordóñez having done the first 2 laps. And in the number 42 Schnitzer BMW, Sheldon van der Linde did 2 laps. Timo Scheider did his 2 laps, and as John said a moment ago, that car having come into the pits at the end of its previous lap. Michael Christensen is now out and has just improved in the 911 Manthey Porsche, which is Michael Christensen going out in the 911. That car is now 5th fastest. Matt Vachivier still 6th in the Nissan, but that's another car that's undergoing a driver change in the pit lane. And out in the number 1 Manthey Porsche, the reigning champion car, is now Patrick Pilet, who has taken that car over from Fred Macavici, who set the early laps in that car. Hour and a half to go. We are therefore just about, not quite, but nearly halfway through this 3-hour qualifying session. Johnny Palmer has come in for the second half, and I know now, Johnny, why you opted for the second half of the show. Because you get the 8 or 9 minutes that we'll get at the end of the 3 hours, because although it's a 3-hour session, it will actually go on for 3¼ hours by the time all the cars come in at the end of their slowing down lap.
Yeah, and the other reason is, of course, not a lot to talk about at the start of the session because cars obviously have to go out for a sighting lap, and then you've got to wait another 8 minutes for fast laps to come through. So this was the easiest shift, I thought.
And he was left alone on the PlayStation Simulator to put that 8 minute 59 in without us interrupting him.
I'm not tremendously shocked to see that John Hindhaugh has not even missed a beat from dropping the headphones. He's back on it now to try and beat that time.
I'm expecting to come back all sweating. I've done an 8:57, Johnny.
Talk about throwing the gauntlet down. I love giving a man a challenge.
He's not competitive, though.
Not at all.
Not
No. Let it never be said. Right, so the number 6 car, fastest so far, and that's the one I think I heard you say, Paul, Yelmer Berman was putting in some good times recently.
Yes.
And it's now been taken over. Let me just make sure I've got the right sheet here. Which, yes, I have. So it's now been taken over by Nico Bastian, and that is the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes, which Patrick Assenheimer regularly drives. In fact, it's in sort of Assenheimer livery, so unusual that Black Falcon should run that car. In fact, it's had various different tyre manufacturers on that car through the years as well. Pretty sure that car's running Michelin's, though, this year. So Assenheimer, Bastian, Berman and Gabriele Piana are the driver makeup there, and Bastian then on to judge what conditions are like. Meanwhile, one of the Get Speed cars is nearing the end of the lap, with Kenneth Hire driving the number 16 AMG. And I say nearing the end of the lap, where is that? Yes, just coming onto the Dottinger Höhe, in fact, Kenneth Hire. So he is into the final sector now.
Was the quickest of all at one point. I think a number of changes of who was actually quickest probably broken all records in this session, because we had all sorts of cars at the top at various points. But the 16 Get Speed car was top for a little while.
Mercedes turning left then with the German driver, headlights ablaze, big kick of sparks as well behind the Mercedes as it grounds out and heads into Tiergarten, then slows much more rapidly for Hohenrhein, and that ever tightening sequence of chicanes. Then through a relatively narrow part of the track, which is the link road between the Nordschleife itself for the tourist laps and the Grand Prix Strecke, and over the line goes Kenneth Hire. So the number 16 machine does not improve.
It was a 9 minutes 8 on that lap compared to his best of an 8 minutes 42.
Right. So the best that's displayed for that car.
Ignore the best column.
That's it. That's erroneous, is it?
I think it is the sum of the best 42 sectors.
So that might be the theoretical time.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Right. So.
But we can't. The problem with the theoretical time, even if we know what the theoretical time is, we don't know what it means, because we don't know what the threshold is to get into top qualifying. And in any case, race control have the right to add somebody to the top qualifying if they think they should.
Yeah.
One thing on the subject of top qualifying, the thing that the top 30 always used to give us was a flashing blue light. We have the new Lumi rank system now on the cars, which, if you're familiar with Blancpain races, is similar to what is shown on the front of a Blancpain car, where the display varies between showing the car's position and the driver who's in the car at the moment. So it depends. If you're looking at it coming towards you for long enough, you'll see the driver who's in it as a 3 letters, or the position that it's in. But if it's in the top 30, if it's in the top qualifying, it will be that Lumi rank system which will then flash blue. So not only will you be able to see who's in the car, what position it's in, but you'll also be able to tell whether it's a top qualifier or not, and that will flash blue. The other thing that the organisers have done this year, because these systems are so clever, is if they feel there is a car that didn't make it into top qualifying that should have done, they can give it a blue flashing, but it flashes at a different rate. Because it wasn't a real top qualifier, it was a discretionary top qualifier, if you will. So it would still be a blue flashing light, but instead of going blink, 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 it'd be a blink, 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 or the other way around, I'm not sure.
Well, what do you think the principle behind the blue flashing light is to warn drivers that you've got one of the 30 fastest drivers. If you then change the rate of the flash of the blue light, then as a driver, you've got, you know, who have I got coming up behind me?
You just see a blue flashing
You
light.
see a blue flashing light, I mean.
Yeah, you
so
don't.
whose benefit is that for?
It's just because the system can, I think.
Right.
I think they said that the people who market the system said to the ADAC, look, we can do this, and they said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. We'll use that for the discretionary ones.
We can distinguish between the discretionary ones and the truly faster guys. That's bizarre.
Some good times very recently for Martin Tomczyk in the 42 car. Team Schnitzer BMW M6 did an 8:33.093, and also an improvement on that lap for Michael Christensen in the 911 numbered Porsche 911. Keeping our eyes peeled for Christopher Mies as well in the number 15 Audi Sport Team Lant R8 LMS, which that car just caught up behind a back marker there, and that allowed one of the Aston Martins through, but Chris Mies now quickly disposes of that Aston Martin then as it accelerates, but it got caught the wrong side of a back marker and didn't know whether to go left or right into Schwalbenschwanz. Now through the very rapid right-hander, important to get Galgenkopf right onto the Dottinger Höhe for this run then to the line, and Christopher Mies' best time, or at least his car's best time so far, an 8:38.559. Only needs to improve by a couple of seconds to get that car into the top 10. It's currently in 15th position. So now heading for the bridge, which indicates the kink, which is still flat. That was the scene last year of Dries Vantor's huge accident as the car he was driving, which was also an Audi, was pitched to the left, and obviously no chance for it to slow into Tiergarten, so it clanged the barrier on the left, clanged the barrier on the right as well. Not such the same story for Chris Mies, who's kept it very neat and tidy indeed, and will go across the line. 8:38.5 to beat. However, it's a slow one because presumably there is still a code 60 out there somewhere, and that's a 9:07, despite it being a very quick end to the lap. And as I mentioned, the car caught traffic at certain points. It's also got traffic at the start of this lap as well. Jonathan Hershey is due across the line at any moment, and that car improved last time around. The Octane 126 Ferrari 488. Octane's first opportunity to run a Ferrari 488 GT3 in the 24 hours, having previously been in, I think, GT8 in the past with a Ferrari 458, so making the step up.
Was it GT8 or was it SPX? Can't remember.
I don't think it was a GT3 equivalent car,
right.
But that's easily looked up. Oh, the Conrad Lamborghini very nearly running into the back of one of the Porsche Caymans. And the driver of car number 7 had to get out of the throttle. That's Marco Mappelli. So that's ruined the Italians' end to the lap. The Mappelli car currently 26th. And is it improvement? Well, actually on that lap, it was an absolute best. Sector 1 for Mappelli. But because of this caution that's partway around the lap, it is again over a 9-minute lap.
Yeah, sector 5 being the bit which slowed him down, which is the bit really which takes him from the foxhole, or from Schwedenkreuz, I should say, from Schwedenkreuz all the way around to just before Bergwerk, which is a very long sector, but it took even longer to get round that part of the circuit for the Conrad Lamborghini. Just good to notice that car is out of the pits, because I did mention earlier on that it was in the pits with Franz Conrad looking under the front right wheel arch, and the car looked as though it was in some kind of difficulty, but running strongly again now. And you mentioned the 55 octane Ferrari, and again, it just to reinforce, that car crashed in the free practice session earlier today, and obviously didn't do very much damage, because it's perfectly all right again now. Or seemingly, Jonathan Hershey then 9th fastest in it.
So a couple of Mercedes fastest so far. A second splits their best times, 8:27.9, 8:29.0, so it's actually 1.1 seconds to be exact. Then two BMWs, the Valkenhorst Motorsport car that Nick Yellerly is currently out in. That's the 101 Valkenhorst machine. There is an intervention vehicle I noticed coming down the Dottinger Höhe as well, with amber light bar flashing. And still not completely dark as I peer out of the Aston Martin lounge. There's a bit of light in the sky. However, the headlights certainly necessary now. Far, far busier on the racetrack than it is on the parallel public road, as four cars together now come towards the end of the lap. One of them is the Rover BMW, which is 17th position. So that's John Edwards in number 99, which ducks past one of the slower class cars. And let's see whether that's an improvement for the American driver. Certainly up through the first few sectors. And yes, car 99 does jump up, I think. We're also waiting for that car to cross the line, beg your pardon. So that's number 99. It's slipped a position, if anything, to 18th spot. So who improved ahead of that car on that lap? That will have been Lucas Luhr, I reckon, as Tom Blomqvist now slots into 5th position in the 98 car. So that's the other Rover BMW. So Blomqvist an 8:33.6. John Edwards did improve, there we go. So he was up through many of the sectors and linked them all together to do an 8:34.0. And that makes it 2 Rover BMWs, Rover Racing BMW M6s in the top 6 now. They are 5th and 6th. So Mercedes, then 4 BMW M6s, the Valkenhorst number 101, the Schnitzer entry, which is 42, 90 ahead of 99, which are the 2 Rover Racing cars. And then it's the best placed Porsche, 7th fastest, car number 911, ahead of the 39 KCMG Nissan, the other Porsche from Manthey, car number 1, and in 10th position, the 30 car of Thomas Preining, which is one of a couple of Fricadelli Racing Porsches. That car 10th fastest, and now on to another lap.
As far as class leaders are concerned, the SPX class leader is still the SCG, the Glickenhaus, only car in SPX. The 320 car, which was another car that actually led overall at the beginning of the session, the Team Care for Climate Porsche, which is now in the hands of Thomas von Lervis from Menard, and he is the AT class leader. In SP7, the leader there is the car number 62, and that is the Müllner Motorsport Porsche, which leads SP7. In Cup X, the leader there is the 111 KTM Crossbow, which did have Laura Kryhammer driving it, but now has been handed over to the right page. Car number 111 is in the hands of Reinhard Koffler. Leading TCR is car number 171, which is the Hyundai Veloster, which is in the hands currently of Nico Verdonk, and that car's done a 9 minutes 10 to be fastest in TCR.
Yeah. In fact, it's a top 2 for Hyundai, because the i30N TCR, not the Veloster, but the i30 instead, is 2nd fastest. Manuel Lauk currently driving it, and that time's actually just been put in, 9:12.773, and Lauk continuing on to the Grand Prix Strecke, which may turn into a slowing down Grand Prix Strecke lap and straight into the pits. More yellow flags I noticed this time at Hocheichen, which is Marshall Post 71, so that's relatively early on in the lap, isn't it? It's the end of Hatzenbach.
Yeah, just coming out of Hatzenbach.
Hocheichen is the run towards Kittelbacher Höhe, so it's the right and the left, and need to carry good speed there as the road rises over a bridge which crosses the public road, and then you head towards Kittelbacher Höhe with 2 very difficult right-handers virtually back to back. So we're trying to work out which car has come to grief there, because
I'll see if I can find that for you, Johnny.
The yellow flags are still waving.
We're generating a little bit of interest in our simulator contest chat, gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
AGH_1990. Yes, you're right. It is GT Sport. I'll find out the tyres and the rules and the regulations. You can join in. Johnny's time 8 minute 59 was beaten by Hindhoff on his first flying lap. He's just put in an 8:57. However, then he was trying far too hard and had a few excursions on his second flying lap.
Fair play, though. Good lap.
Sure, I did an 8:47 earlier today.
Really? Okay. I'll believe it when I see it. SP9 cars locking in the top 26 positions now. So that means that the 320 Team Care for Climate Porsche GT3 Cup car's doing pretty nicely, into 27th overall now, and therefore the fastest AT leader. And the SPX, the only SPX car, is the Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus SCG003C, and that car 29th overall, although currently in the pit lane. And Felipe Fernandez Larza, the last to drive that car.
I'm have to announce I'm very surprised that we haven't managed to improve on times from this morning's free practice yet. I thought we would have done by now. We got down to 8:27.9 about 20 minutes or so ago, maybe nearly half an hour ago. That was when the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes Jelmer Berman did that 8 minutes 27.9. Since then there hasn't been an improvement on it. And as I say, that time set I would say about 25 minutes ago. So the Mercedes won too. Now that's been a combination of things. One is more cars coming out onto the circuit, and so traffic becomes more of a problem, but also slow zones or other things which interrupt your progress around the circuit. So we've not had an improvement for the last 25 minutes, despite the fact that it's getting drier and drier.
I've identified the car that's brought out the slow zone just out, coming out of Hatzenbach. It's the number 157. It's a BMW E90. It's a private entry. Give it a mention. Jürgen Huber, Simon Sagmeister, Andreas Schmidt, and Cyril Kalbasi. It's a private entry. It isn't entered under a team name, but that car is showing static and not moving towards the latter bit of the Hatzenbach. So that's a tricky part of the track. I wouldn't be surprised if he's had it off, but then again, that would be pure speculation.
Cyril Kalbasi is the driver I have at the wheel of that V4 BMW E90. So stranded on the outside, or the exit rather, of Hatzenbach, and covered at the moment by code 60 is the recovery work.
Improvements coming in sectors 3, 4 and 5, which are the sectors basically from where you go onto the Nordschleife right the way up to Adenauer Bridge, really. So they're getting fast times through there, but it's the beginning part of the lap and the end of the lap. Well, having said that, a very fast time just coming in there in Sector 7 from Tom Blomqvist at the wheel of the Rover Racing car number 98, the BMW. Tom Blomqvist putting in a fastest time in Sector 7. That is the long sector, so possibly an improved time coming in from the 98 car, and we'll see very soon indeed, because he's coming along the Dottinger Hohe now, the 98 Rover Racing BMW. A couple of people I was speaking to earlier in the week saying that Rover Racing would have the advantage here at the Nurburgring in the 24 hours, but an improved time on that last lap. You mentioned, Johnny, a little while ago, Nico Bastian now at the wheel of the Black Falcon Mercedes number 6. Goes to the, well, it was at the top of the list anyway, but goes quicker still, 8:25.345 for Nico Bastian. And that is the fastest lap of the session, except for a fastest lap on the PlayStation, which has been set by somebody.
So far,
well, what is it?
Hindhoff's just coming
writing
in
it
now.
down now.
He's all
I
excited.
have to say, this timing screen's a lot slower than the one to my
Do you
right.
want to read out that time?
Yes, I do. I'll do it in descending order.
Yeah.
Second lap that he did, as you reported, a 9:03. It's all right, but he wasn't as quick as me. The first lap he did, though, And remember that you start coming into Tiergarten, so you don't actually have to do an out lap. You're just straight onto a fast one. 8:57.415. That's the one
Yes.
you watched, is it? So
Yes.
that's 2.5 seconds quicker than I went.
Right,
This is going to rumble on.
So it's my turn now.
I think there are actually some Aston Martin guests due on this at about 2 o'clock tomorrow, but they'll have to wrestle it off us. Joe Bradley will be back. I noticed another good time. You talked about Tom Blomqvist improving. Well, he's done an 8:28.414. I wouldn't be surprised if Nico Bastian and Tom Blomqvist were almost going round together. You know, Blomqvist pursuing Bastian because the number 6 car posted its time first, and it can't have been more than about 5, maybe 10 seconds later. Blomqvist went through with an 8:28.414, but also improvement for Michael Christensen in the 911 car. That's now 4th fastest with an 8:29.5. Great lap from Raffaele Marciello in the man-filter Mercedes, the yellow, almost crocodile-scaled liveried number 48 car that went so well at the Bathurst 12-hour at the start of the year. 8:30.592. Lucas Luhr, we didn't mention, in the Iron Force car, number 8, doing an 8:30.8, and also some good times, although now pitting. Nick Yellerly in the 101 Valkenhorst BMW, the Wochenspiegel team Monschau Ferrari of, who put that time in? Jochen Krumbach, I think that was, car 11, yes, Jochen Krumbach. And Martin Tomczyk. I think I mentioned the Schnitzer time from the BMW M6 a little while ago. Well, all of a sudden, Tomczyk leaping up to 4th and now way back down to 9th because so many cars that were slower than the 42 BMW are now a lot quicker.
Combination of no more slow zones and the drying track kind of working together, Johnny, and making everything suddenly lots of fast times. And I suspect there's another one in the offing, the Get Speed, the number 17 Get Speed performance car, which is one of the Pro-Am category cars, currently in the hands of Fabian Schiller, and that car going very rapidly on this lap, currently 10th. Best lap of 8 minutes 33.647 set by Fabian on its previous lap, but Fabian Schiller in number 17 halfway around the lap at the moment, and with potential to improve.
I think he's just crossed the line actually, and it's an 8:32.6, so that's
so
still 7 seconds
the
off,
time,
isn't it?
yeah, improve the time, but not his position in the times.
Indeed, so stays 10th. But an absolute best through sector 4, which actually only takes you, well, takes Fabian 9.3 seconds. We've got the odd car that takes just around 10 seconds, but it's an incredibly short time. Oh dear, Aston Martin spinning and currently facing the wrong way is the number 37 Aston Martin. So Peter Kate driving the Vantage AMR GT4.
I've got it in 65th place at the moment, 4th in the SP8T class.
That was at the chicane, right at the start of the lap. And how frustrating must that feel? Although, of course, in this mode of the week, it only requires you to complete the Grand Prix Strecke and you can try again. But, of course, if this was in the race, that would completely scupper the next 25 kilometres, potentially. But these are the times, these are the sessions to make those mistakes and realise how little grip there is out there. It's still relatively warm evening. The wind that was very strong earlier on today has dropped considerably now. The flags down below us are fluttering, but only gently. And as I say, ambient temperature is reasonably warm. It's still T-shirt weather. Renger van der Zande in the number 16 Mercedes now. Circulating, that's the Get Speed car. Yes, that's right. Renger van der Zande in the 16 Get Speed machine that he shares with Tristan Vautier, Jan Seyfarth, and Kenneth Heyer.
Just looking at that lap from Peter Kate, and I think it was his first flying lap. He'd done a lap of the Grand Prix loop, and was then. So he hadn't come across the line, across the start-finish line from the Dottinger Hoa. He'd come across the start-finish line from the Grand Prix loop and from the inside of the line of cones that separate the start-finish line into 2 lanes, and was on his first flying lap time. He wasn't quite quick early enough in his lap. He came out of the pits about 10 minutes ago, so I think it was probably a lap around the Grand Prix loop, not long enough for him to do a full lap.
More yellows out at Klostertal now, which is the climb up to the carousel, and Marshal Post 136 drawn to my attention. So that's the left-hander at Klostertal, and then the next Marshal Post on your right is Marshal Post 136, just before the hard braking area at Klostertal Curva, the right-hander, and therefore the approach to the carousel. So we'll do a bit of digging to find out who's come to grief there. No sign of green flags just yet. As meanwhile, the 116 car goes onto or completes a personal best lap. That's a Renault Clio from class SP3, which has just done a 10 minutes 24 to put it 4th in its class. SP3, by the way, is currently headed by the Opel Manta. Volker Strycek, the last to drive that, although it is in the pit lane, the 122 car, the Foxtail.
Oh, I have to wave at that because it promised to wave at me, so I shall wave back, although it's getting a bit dark for the Foxtail to see me.
True.
But, thank you for waving.
Was that via the medium of Twitter then?
Yes, it was.
Very clever stuff.
Yes, it's encouraging me to use Twitter more, you see. So it's drawing me into the trap.
911 Porsche starting another Grand Prix lap at the very least.
And I think he's right on the tail of Dirk Muller's Mercedes-Benz, Johnny, the number 2 Black Falcon car with Assenheimer. You mentioned the number 6 car has the Assenheimer sponsorship on it. There's a little bit of Assenheimer name stickers on the number 2 car as well. And I think those 2 cars quite close together on the racetrack. The 911 car currently 4th fastest. The other Manthey Porsche, number 1 car, Ricard Leitz at the wheel, is currently in 12th fastest place, although neither of those cars really need worry about this session because they're in the top qualifying anyway. Just going through those cars that are already in the top qualifying, number 98 and 99, both of the Rover Racing BMWs are in, as is the 101 Valkenhorst BMW, the one that David Pittard was driving a few minutes ago.
Klostertal now clear, by the way. Green flags once again everywhere.
Good. Christian Krogner's now out in the 101 Valkenhorst Motorsport car. The 100 Valkenhorst Motorsport car is also already pre-qualified into the top qualifying session. So all 4 BMWs, if you, not all 4 because you've got the Schnitzer cars as well, but the Rover Racing and Valkenhorst Motorsport BMWs are in. The 42 BMW is also in, and so 5 BMWs pre-qualified. The 2 Manthey Porsches are in, as is the 31 Fricadelli Porsche, and also the number 12 Manthey Porsche already qualified for top qualifying. As far as the Audis are concerned, we've got the number 4 Audi from Phoenix, the 5 Audi from Phoenix, and the 29 Audi from the Audi Sport Team Lant team. They are all already qualified. The 2 and the 3 Mercedes from the Black Falcon are already qualified. The Glickenhaus is already qualified, and the Falcon Motorsports Porsche, the number 44 car, is already qualified. That should be the full list of 17 that are already qualified. Johnny was writing them down so he can tell whether I actually gave you 17, because I was doing them in a slightly different order from my list.
I've only got 16, but I'm not.
So the one I missed was the Kondo Racing Nissan car, number 45. Okay. Is the other one. Yeah. So the only Nissan that's pre-qualified, the number 45 car, the car that Tom Coronel is going to be driving. bumped into him last weekend, although he wasn't driving. Tomonobu Fuji, Matsuda Tsujo, and Takaboshi Mitsunori, the drivers of the Kondo Racing Nissan. Not to be confused with the 2 cars from the KCMG group, which I was doing for a moment a little while ago. The KCMG cars numbered 38 and 39.
Neither of which are in.
Neither of those are in so far. No, that's right. So 17 currently in. The remainder, we've got up to 19, total of 36 altogether, which could get into top qualifying, but they will only be either SP9, SPX or SP Pro class cars. And apart from that, it's going to be down to a combination of minimum theoretical lap times, plus information from GPS, plus information as well from the data sticks, from the data that is collected on board. And then the race organisers will decide whether or not teams deserve to be into the top qualifying or not, which will run in its usual style, cars being released in 10-second intervals and then doing 2 laps. You're absolutely right, Johnny, the other day. 2 flying laps, and the better of those 2 flying laps will then count to set the grid position. So for a lot of teams at the moment, this is fairly academic, except for if you're not in the top qualifying, it's far from academic because it decides where you're going to start on the grid.
Indeed, but we don't yet know how many places at the sharp end are going to be decided in the top qualifying. It's previously been 30 cars. It may be a little bit more than that. Is there a chance it may be fewer than 30, or is 30 sort of the base?
No, it could be fewer than 30, although I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But it can't be more than 36.
Indeed. Birthday boy Kelvin van der Linde's just gone across the line, by the way, and that Audi pushing on to try and get another lap, and it should manage that very easily. That's the number 29 Team Lant Audi R8 LMS, 23rd position for that car. One to look out for, though, towards the end of this lap for the 48 Mercedes is Raffaele Marciello, who set a personal best, in fact an absolute best, through sector 2. So that's purple, that second sector of 9. Remember, the track is split into, at least on our timing screen. Previously, this lap has been split into 5 sectors, and I think still is for the VLN races. But all the other lap times, very, very good from the Italian driver, although possibly lost about 7/10 of a second through sector 6. But in the next few minutes, nearing the end of the lap for the Manfilter AMG GT3, and that car will only need to find a second to improve one position, more like 5 seconds to go top though and above Nico Bastian in a similar machine.
Yeah, if the I may be being unkind, Johnny, but if the Valkenhorst BMWs are the dark horses of the BMW camp, then I think the Manfilter Mercedes, run by HTP Motorsport,
yes,
is the dark horse amongst the Mercedes, with the Black Falcon cars very much being the white horses, or the favourites amongst the Mercedes runners. But we have seen this in the past, that the HTP car, through running good strategy and keeping out of trouble and consistency, does end up being there or thereabouts at the end. And of course, in the BMW camp, it was very much a story of Valkenhorst in the qualifying race. And certainly with Raffaele Marciello, a very quick driver. And here's one of those drivers. I was at the Spa 24 Hours a couple of years ago when Raffaele did something like 13 3/4 hours of driving in the Spa 24 Hours. Now, there was almost no need for him to drive as much as that, but he just rose to the occasion. But he has some very capable drivers with him. Maxi Gertz, Lance David Arnold and Christian Hohenadel. And all of those drivers, I'll say, are former winners, but certainly Christian and Hohenadel and just check that one back. But they're certainly all very quick runners at the wheel of the number 48 Mercedes, currently in 6th and about to come through at the end of the lap that you were describing a moment ago, Johnny, where he started very rapidly. An 8 minutes 30.592 to beat for Marciello.
Haven't got Hohenadel as a previous winner. Marciello
No, I don't think Marciello
has. I don't think Maxi Goertz has either. No. And
so none of them are winners.
none of them are winners,
Okay.
indeed, in car 48. But
They've been on podiums then, but we don't have to go there.
no, okay. Well,
I have a vision in my mind of having seen Hohenadel and Maxi Goertz on the podium. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Lance
well,
David
already
Arnold.
podium finishes this year at the Bathurst 12 hour, by the way, where they finished in 3rd position with the Gruppa M Racing Mercedes, but it was in the same livery as it is this weekend. And Marciello now starting another lap because he's back across the line. And actually, that wasn't an improvement, was
No,
it?
It was an 8:36 compared to an 8:30. The guy who did improve was the number 16 car, which was in the hands of Renger van der Zande. And van der Zande has done an 8:29.835 to put his Mercedes into 5th place. So it's the Get Speed Performance car, which is better than the Man Filter car at the moment. Into the pits comes van der Zande at the end of the Grand Prix loop. You can't come into the pits at the end of a lap off the Nordschleife, so you have to go round onto the Grand Prix loop to finish your lap.
55 minutes to go. You are tuned to the Radio Show Limited network of channels. This is live action for qualifying 1 of the ADAC 24-hour of the Nurburgring for 2019, and more qualifying sessions to come tomorrow, not least the top qualifying, which is Friday night's entertainment to look forward to. So 2nd qualifying local time is tomorrow at 2:55 in the afternoon until 4:45, and then however you call it, Super Pole, top qualifying, just don't use the top 30 name anymore because that's been dropped at 7 o'clock until 7:40 tomorrow night. There's also a warm-up session Saturday morning, which is an hour long, starting at 9:10, and the race is due for a 3:30 start. Lucas Luhr slithering and sliding along the link road between the Grand Prix Strecke and Hatzenbach, and it is properly dark now, particularly as you head between the trees and the campsite on Hatzenbach itself, although there are areas of illumination, including in that giant campsite to the right of Lucas Luhr, which can only act as a distraction, particularly this bit where there's just flashing lights. There's a funfair ride, several of them, and he's got to deal with slower traffic as well. You've just got to make sure your eyes are locked on the road rather than any of the Thursday night entertainment.
What I sometimes find fascinating, having never driven and never been able to put myself under this kind of thing, but if you do talk to drivers and listen to their answers, one of the things they describe is the sense of smell, that you can smell the wood smoke, you can smell the burgers being grilled, you can smell the various aromas that are coming off the campsites as you're driving round, and that again can be a bit of a distraction. What on earth is that? Oh no, it's not something on the car that's burning, it's just wood smoke coming in from outside. Jesse Krohn's just gone quicker in the 99 Rover Racing BMW, and he has set an 8:29.545 to go 4th fastest. So it's Mercedes BMW with the 98 car Philip Eng 2nd quickest, Mercedes BMW 1st and 2nd, and then another Mercedes BMW 3rd and 4th. Then it's a Porsche 5th, Mercedes 6th, Mercedes 7th, Porsche 8th, BMW 9th, and Ferrari 10th. Where are the Audis? I hear you shout. I've got very good hearing. Fastest of them, I reckon, is 19th, Johnny. Can that be right? I think it can, can't it? 19th fastest, the first Audi. And that is the number 14 car in the hands of René Rast.
Now, there's a code 60 in place at Bergwerk, and Lucas Lure is still heading down the hill towards Breitscheid. So in a moment or two, might get a glimpse of exactly why that code 60 is out, so I can describe that to you. Through the hairpin bend, which is just before the lowest part of the circuit, so that's Versiphon. Breitscheid to come next. Over the bridge goes Lucas Lure for Iron Force Racing with Ring Police. And, that's annoying. Just as the moment where he was going to go into the code 60, we do not get the opportunity. Oh no, Lucas Lure back into now the incident area, and the flags are being waved. Yeah. Yes, and I think this might be actually stretching the reception for Lucas Lure's car. Might have been a BMW possibly that has come to grief just before the right-hander at Bergwerk. And then the green panel is right after that. So hard onto the accelerator goes Lucas Lure to haul his way back up the hill now towards Kesselchen and onward to Klostertal. So there might have even been two cars off at Bergwerk.
Do you know who it is, Johnny, yet?
No.
It's 54.
Okay.
That's the Team Avia Sorg Rennsport BMW. It's the 335i of Neil Sporer, Michael Eden and Wayne Moore. That's the only...
Okay, so the other car was probably a recovery vehicle, and if that's 54, shout, Paul, if you get to a driver before I do.
Let me see if I can.
It's Moore, surname
54,
Moore.
Wayne Moore. Wayne Moore! Our old friend Wayne Moore
Indeed.
is back at the Nurburgring again.
Yes.
Every time we see him, I think, I hope we see you next year, Wayne. And he's one of those guys where you shake his hand and really mean it. But that's great. Wayne Moore is back here at the Nurburgring. He's in the car, but come to grief, you
Unfortunately.
say.
Well, yeah, I couldn't tell from the very quick sight of it whether Wayne had made contact with the Armco barrier or whether it was just, the car screaming enough heading through. Well, it was just before Bergwerk, indeed. But yes, the 39-year-old Kiwi making a return to the Nürburgring. I have his first appearance in 2003, although...
He's 39.
According to my records, yeah. Didn't he look a bit older than that?
I thought he was a little bit older than that.
Okay.
Anyway, no, that's
that
good.
might need looking at, in fairness. However, my records go back to 2003 as one of his first races, but early 2000s, records of this race go a little bit sketchy, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, very much so, yes.
Yeah, so it might be that Wayne has done a few more races than that. Without being rude to Wayne, I think he's probably over 40, but by only a few years.
Yes, I think if he is only 39, then he has more to worry about than I thought. We have a doff of the cap to the 98 car. As far as I know, and I'm obviously with 150 cars in the field, I'm not necessarily keeping tabs on all of them, but that car has now had all four of its drivers do their 2 qualifying laps, and it's the first one in the top group to have achieved that, the 98 car. Conor De Philippi, Mikkel Jensen, Tom Blomqvist and Philip Eng all having having between them done their 2 laps, which is what they need to do in order to qualify the car. The number 16 I thought was going to be able to achieve that. We were just talking about the Get Speed car improving its time with Renger van der Zande at the wheel of it. Kenneth High has done his laps. Jan Seifert has done his, but Tristan Bautier yet to drive the number 16 car, although Renger van der Zande has done 2 different stints behind the wheel.
I found a newspaper article about Wayne Moore from the New Zealand Herald, dated June 2019. Record 25th Nürburgring event for Wayne Moore. And
25th anniversary.
Indeed, this race.
I think we need to ask our responsible adult to find us some red carpet to put down for Wayne Moore as and when he arrives, because I'm sure he will. He'll go back to the other Aston Martin lounge to look for us, but knowing Wayne, he'll be able to find us in the end. Great Kiwi character, loves this race. He's, as we say, if you've not heard of Wayne Moore before, then he's been coming back to visitors, and he always brings us some trinkets of some sort or another, which is quite remarkable because he has to pack it all into his luggage as he comes over from New Zealand for every race. But he always,
what sort of trinkets?
well, he brings us those little kiwis, literally little kiwis
Oh,
that
yes,
are made
yes.
out of
Is
bulldog.
that who brings us
bulldog-
those?
Yeah,
They're all over my study.
there you go. Well, you kept them, you see.
Well, not all of them. Maybe 2 or 3. You know,
Yeah.
we do share.
Absolutely.
They've cleared up berg work, by the way, guys.
Good.
Back on the Winmore.
Right.
Well, no, that's
now,
Wayne's car now.
So-
That's been recovered.
Good.
I found his real age here. He's not 39.
No. I think you might have to talk to Forex about that.
That's fine.
I would say he's at least 60.
You're correct. At least.
Yes. Is he 70 yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, he's in, so nothing wrong with being in your 60s.
Certainly not. And 25 years at the Nurburgring
We're a few years off that, though, guys.
is a fabulous effort. So we wish him well for a good result this year. Celebrating a quarter a century coming to the Gruner Holler. Is there another car in Greek? That might be Wayne's car, actually, being nursed back to, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Number 54. And Kelvin van der Linde, unsure whether he can overtake it or not.
Does he think he's slowed down because of a slow zone?
Well,
I think
possibly,
he does.
yes.
I think he does. I think he's thinking.
But then again, is that a green? Well,
Is
the
that blue
Mercedes
or
that's
green?
just shot past doesn't think. Oh, now that's immediately got on the brakes as well. That was one of the Get Speed Mercedes, I think.
We haven't
so
got any-
complete confusion there as Wayne gets back up to speed after an incident just before Bergwerk. Kelvin van der Linde really didn't know whether he was allowed to overtake or not. And then one of the red Mercedes from Get Speed hurling it up the inside. I think more of an avoidance action than anything else. 2 wheels on the grass and then leapt on the brakes, whoever that was.
He's just going towards the right-hander before the carousel.
Now, is one of the Get Speed Mercedes behind that, Joe? Like the 16, the 17 or the 18 car?
Standby caller. I'll just check that out. Not directly behind, no.
It had to slow dramatically. There may be another red Mercedes, of course. I don't think any of the Black Falcon AMGs are red, are they?
No, not as red as those are.
Right.
So yeah, it was an odd incident that, but hopefully it was all. It clearly was all safely gathered in the end.
There's another car being towed here, and I couldn't identify that at all. But that's the run down towards Brunchen
Go with that.
with the large campsite on the left. So exiting Wipperman, and yeah, the descent into Brunchen. So there'll be white flags being displayed there as well, although you can overtake. It's just one of the intervention vehicles has picked up a slow-moving car.
Remember I said about Tristan Vautier, and I'm just wondering if it was he, because Tristan Vautier is at the wheel of the number 16 Get Speed Performance Mercedes, Johnny,
Yeah.
and has just set his fastest lap of the session so far. I say just, it wasn't really just because it was about 10 minutes ago, and he's now on another flying lap, is Tristan Vautier at the wheel of number 16. It might have been him that you saw going past Kelvin van der Linde's Lant Audi.
Which of the 9 sectors does Kesselchen and Klostertal fall into? Typically, I bet there's...
Section 7.
They're both in 7, right?
Well, Kesselchen is at the end of 6. Klostertal is in 7.
So Vautier, it took him 1 minute and 57, whereas the number 2 Mercedes of Manuel Metzger managed to do it 7 seconds quicker than that. I'm just wondering whether that accounts for the slam on the brakes and then speeding back up again. And you can do it in a 1:48, in fact, because Marciello's just done it in his AMG that quickly. So that would tally, I think.
I think we've just found the culprits, haven't we, Johnny? The Lant Motorsport car.
Well, there's no doubt about Kelvin van der Linde, because he was treating us to the onboard.
And Tristan Vautier was the red Mercedes that we saw.
Yeah.
We've got 40 minutes of this session to go, and Joe can tell us something.
No, I've got a question, Paul,
Oh, a
from
question.
Corey
I
Marvin.
thought you were going to tell us something. Go on.
No, you're going to tell us something, Paul. Corey Marvin's asking, he's saying good afternoon, gentlemen, so I presume Corey's in the United States or Canada. Who is currently on overall provisional pole in this qualifying session?
Well, it could be the number 6 Mercedes, Nico Bastian, currently at the wheel of it, but I don't like calling it provisional pole because it's not provisional pole.
And it's not as simple as who's at the top of the time.
Precisely.
Well, no, because provisional pole isn't set until we get into the top qualifying session, which is the what time is it? It's on Friday. The top qualifying
7 o'clock, I think.
is at, yes, it is 7 o'clock.
It's a bit like in a Formula 1 qualifying session, saying in Q1
who's on pole.
who's on provisional pole.
Yes.
Because there's 2 more sessions to come yet after that.
We can tell Corey who's fastest in
Yes,
this session,
we can.
which is the number 6 Mercedes. It was Jelmer Berman who put that time in pole. Am I right? Is
Yep,
that
yeah.
time still stand? And is that still the 8 minutes 49.6?
I thought Bastian had gone quicker than that.
Sorry, the 8 minute 25.3.
Yeah, but that's a Bastian time,
Right.
not a Berman time.
Okay.
Berman was quickest when he set the time, but since then Nico Bastian has gone quicker. Interestingly, those 2 times, though, the Jelmer Berman time and the Nico Bastian time, are the fastest times overall in the session. So the number 6 car has gone quickest twice.
Yes. Yes, so looking
Once with
very
Berman
strong.
behind the wheel, and then with Nico Bastian, who went quicker still, and nobody's beaten that time. Tom Blomqvist, the driver of the number 98 Rover Racing BMW, who did the 8:28.414, which is the second fastest time in terms of cars, second fastest time. And then the number 2 Black Falcon Mercedes, an Adam Christodoulou time of 8 minutes 29.017, and then behind him the 99 car, that was a Jesse Krohn time, that's an 8:29.545, and the only other driver who's under 8.5 minutes is Renger van der Zande at the wheel of the number 16 Mercedes, 8 minutes 29.835, except that Lawrence Van Toor has made a liar of me because he's just done an 8 minutes 29.546 in the 911 Porsche. So 6 cars underneath the 8 minutes 30. Lawrence Van Toor's time quicker than that of Tristan Vautier. So Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, Mercedes is the top 6.
And the best Audi now 7th fastest, which is a lot better. Rene Rast doing an 8:30.169 in the number 14 car collection Audi. And that, as I've already mentioned in the free practice broadcast, looks to be very strong on paper as a lineup. Marcel Fester joining Rene Rast, Chris Haase and Marcus Winkelhock in a rather nondescript looking car collection Audi with the sort of greyish colour with a bit of white and red on it here and there.
New second fastest time, Johnny.
Yeah.
Raffaele Marciello in the HTP man-filter Mercedes, 8:26.642, puts him second quickest behind Nico Bastian's time. So we're getting down now to the times I thought we'd be getting down to about an hour and a half ago. It's taken them a lot longer to get down to the quicker times. I still think we're going to get under 8:20 in the remaining half hour. How about that?
Well, you told me to ignore the best column, but I'm still quite interested by those theoretical times because 8:22 looks to be the best so far. That's not a car actually doing an 8:22.593, but it is apparently possible from the 48 car if it could string all of its best sectors together on the same lap. So Marciello looking strong. That would put it 3 seconds faster than Nico Bastian. So the AMG GT3 certainly looking very strong this year. We know the BMWs have brought a good car as well, and maybe that's favoured in the current balance of performance with 5 BMWs already qualified for the top qualifying session tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And Henry Valkenhorst in the 100 BMW, which is one of those pre-qualified cars, is now heading through Wipperman and Brunchen and down the hill to the very dark part of the track at Flansgarten.
Have you noticed the BMW headlight flash? It's more of a strobe it should have a flashing light warning.
Yeah.
They're coming up behind slower traffic, and usually you flick of the headlights like you would see on a normal road car. It's on a button. It's not on a stalk like you're not going to flash your full beam. There's a button on the steering wheel. But all of the BMWs, I first noticed it on the Rover BMWs, and here it is on the Vulcanhurst car. It's a strobe, and it's a very fast strobe. I'm
So that's
hoping there's no epileptics in any of the cars that they come up behind. It really needs a warning.
That looks like one press of the button and then it flashes away for a couple of seconds, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
A bit like the Audis used to have, and I think a lot of the prototypes at Le Mans as well, they would flash 8 or 10 times
It's the
after
fastest
one.
I've seen the flash though, Johnny. It's
Yeah.
more of a strobe flash. Very,
I
very
agree.
rapid.
Yeah, maybe just to totally intimidate the driver in front.
Oh, it definitely gets their attention. By the way, have we clarified the pronunciation of GT tyres?
No. Right.
Right.
That was your job to go down and ask her.
It was. We got waylaid though, didn't we, with some practice laps?
With Bratwurst and Pommes Fritz, what can you expect?
Car of interest, the Volkswagen Golf GTI of GT Tyre Motorsport by WS Racing, car 89. Jasmine Pressig, Carrie Schreiner and Ronja Assmann, full female driver lineup, but also full female crew
Right.
on that car.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
Good luck to them. Hopefully they'll have a great time.
Well, we come off the back of a Le Mans, which has had a full female lineup for the first time in a long, long time. The 83 Kessel Racing crew.
I've never seen a full female crew. Johnny, when we did our pit walk the other day, I noticed on the board there was an assignment board of who had what corner. And they were all female names. And I thought, I wonder if that's a female crew.
Yeah.
I've confirmed that bit. I've confirmed the pronunciation of GT tyres, or GT,
Well,
or
yeah,
GT.
I think we'll go with GT, that's fine.
GT and
GT tyres.
Gitty tyres, I've heard, but GT seems to make sense somehow, seeing as there's lots of GTs in this race, and at least one of the GT type cars is running on GT tyres, with also a couple of Volkswagen Golfs from one's from the TCR category, another one from the touring car type category.
The 89 is in the SP3T.
Okay, I think that's the other
Category.
alternative. If you bring a Volkswagen Golf that is sort of an uprated or downgraded TCR car that doesn't automatically fit into the TCR class, then SP3 or SP3T is another option.
Can we have a round of applause for Aston Martin, because we're in the Aston Martin
We can.
lounge. Darren Turner, well done. Darren Turner has gone quickest in SP8T, a 9 minutes 3.493. We were talking to Peter Cate, who was up here earlier on, and he was saying how there are some quick cars out there in the SP8T class. Peter's in the car that he shares with Alex Brundle and Jamie Chadwick, but it's the Darren Turner car which is being shared by Chris Goodwin and Christian Gebhardt, the number 36 car, which is quickest in SP8T now. And second quickest is the BMW number 51 of Team Speedline Racing, a BMW M4, another not quite GT4 car, but a GT4 car in terms of its nomenclature, but one that has the additional power. Anyway, that's the number 51 car, which is second in SP8T.
The timing screen's got a bit confused here because it all of a sudden thinks one of the SP10 cars is fastest. That's a glitch, showing a sub 8 minute time, which would be fantastic, but very unlikely that a Ginetta GT4 has set that time.
You were underneath 8 minutes around the Nordschleife, didn't you? In one of the prototypes?
In an Audi R18 from 2016, I think we managed it. Yes.
What did we get down to?
I don't think
14 or something, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It was approaching the low teens of the 7 minute variety. I don't think they're allowed in this race somehow, though.
No.
But it was interesting to see how many different areas of the Nordschleife you could take flat in a Le Mans prototype.
It's the first time I've ever been scared on a sim.
Yes, I know.
I was almost wanged off into the bar.
Indeed. I says, Joe, there's no way you can get that. Oh, you can. Oh, that's flat as well. Unbelievable. The carousel flat is the next challenge for you. So, yes, if you're keeping an eye on a variety of timing screens which are screening this race, then there are two. In fact, now just one errant car at the top of the shop, which is the MSC Sinzig Volkswagen Golf, which is one of the SP4T cars. Nico Bastian's Black Falcon Mercedes is still fastest, and that's unlikely to go any quicker at the moment because it's in the pit lane. Although Raffaele Marciello will be onto something special here. So if you look at these other sector times, 1 and 2 are pretty good. Sector 3 an absolute best, and not too shabby through the others either. Still got sector 7, 8 and 9 to go, as everybody's all back to their rightful positions now on the timing screen.
And we're also still waiting for Lance David Arnold to have his turn behind the wheel of the Mann-Filter Mercedes, the Yellow Peril as I sometimes call it. You describe it as crocodile type livery, but it is very distinctive anyway in that bright yellow colour. It's different from the kind of Manti Grello yellow, but nevertheless still very distinctive. But Christian Hohenadel having driven the first stint in the number 48 car, Maxi Goetz the second, Marciello has then got into it, and rather than hand it over to Lance David Arnold, Raffaele is on his 9th lap now.
Audi fans can rejoice entirely though.
Hooray.
Now René Rast fastest of the session, 8:25.012. So we were a little bit fearful about Audi's pace earlier on. I think the highest car we found was something like 17th position. Well, he leapfrogs all the way to the sharp end, having just completed that lap, and it's an absolute best through sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think, well, René Rast going even quicker through the first sector, which is the Grand Prix Strecker. No guarantees that he's going to continue on, although he has got the time to do that. Marciello now fastest, 8:24.8, so that's 0.2 of a second even quicker. So said to look out for Marciello. Laurent Vantor an improvement as well, with the Belgian 4th fastest, but 2 new names to wrestle with, quicker than Nico Bastian.
Yes, and Nico Bastian in no position to defend himself because he's still in the pits in the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes. Lawrence Vantour staying out for the moment at least, and just looking out to see if Marciello is going to come into the pits at the end of that stint or go out for another tour around. You can certainly, I mean, you can do something like 6 or 7 laps on or 8 laps on a tank full of fuel in one of these cars. And the tyres will obviously last that long. There's no real qualifier. I mean, there is a qualifier tyre, but certainly Raffaele Marciello demonstrating the pace of the Mercedes as René Rast did. René is a former winner of the race, of course, but there's another fairly big incident out on the circuit, Johnny.
Yes, and just trying to identify, this is at Kesselchen, I reckon.
2 cars off.
You're right, Johnny.
The 63 Porsche, I think I saw, and also a Honda
59 I've got. 59 and 119.
Okay,
Static.
okay.
59 is the CP Racing Porsche, the team of Charles Putman, which normally runs a Mercedes in other 24-hour series, but running the Porsche at the Nurburgring.
That's immediately gone code 60 at Kesselchen as well. What's another one? Give me the numbers again if you can, Joe.
59 and 119.
119.
59 was in the hands of Xavier Masson, and 119 is a
Yes,
Toyota,
it's the Toyota, yeah.
CHR.
I recognise the livery as being Gazoo Racing, and it's Gazoo Team
that-
Thailand.
Was that the heavily damaged one?
Well, there was one on the left in the barrier, and possibly with rear right wheel damage. I wasn't even sure whether the wheel was still there. And then the Porsche, which was sticking out into the track, was, I assume, the 59. Just the 2 cars at that spot is the tracker
that's
showing.
all. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all the track is showing.
Yeah.
We've got the slow zone
Is there a third one there as
reducing speed to 120 k's out of Bergwerk towards the sweeping left to Kesselchen.
I reckon there's
And
a
then-
third car involved in that as well.
It's
You
an
reckon?
intervention vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
IV1.
And then the 2 that are stopped.
Yeah,
But I think I was misreading.
Okay, yeah.
TV screen showing our little app.
Yes. Yes, the GPS Auger app, which is very fruit-based device friendly. And thankfully, Joe Bradley's brought his with him. So we are able to identify where cars are and how long they're taking to be retrieved. But I think that's going to be quite a lengthy clear-up process just because of barrier damage. I mean, 2 heavily damaged cars there, and facing the wrong way was the Porsche.
Well, I think they've retrieved them, Johnny, because they've disappeared off the GPS, so that means they've gone onto a flatbed and maybe have gone off track. I think that's how this app works, not like the old ones that used to show them go off into town.
Pretty quick if they've been taken off that quickly. I think, so for the moment, I was going to suggest that my predictions of a sub 8:20 a bit wide of the mark, but we'll see what happens. Still 26 minutes of the session to go. So if they can get those cars out of the way, there's time for improvements to be made. Just to dot the I's and cross the T's, it was Manat Kulapalanot in the Gazoo Racing Toyota CHR. And as I say, Xavier Masson, the 4th driver in the CP Racing Porsche, the kind of addition to that team for the number 59 CP Racing car, which runs in the SP7 class, the 991 Porsche GT3 Cup class car.
Still got code 60 up at Kesselchen, so we're not completely cleared up.
A team representative for car 159 is now being requested to the clerk of the course as well. But we reckon it was 59 rather than 159, but confusingly 159 is also a Porsche. That's a Porsche Cayman 718 GTS. But anyway, there is a message now on the timing screen that someone who represents that team being asked to report to the clerk of the course. And yellow still being shown at Bergwerk, the code 60 at Kesselchen.
So 2 separate incidents on the circuit then, with just 25 minutes still to go.
Yes, because, well, Bergwerk's the right-hander, quite a sharp right-hander, at Marshall Post 125, Kesselchen 130, so that it might be quite a long sector that's all affected by the same incident, or as you say, Paul, they may be completely separate. Difficult to tell from this distance.
The man filter Mercedes has come into the pit. I thought I saw Lance David Arnold getting into it, ready to go out. He's the only driver who's not yet driven that car. Rene Rast has stayed at the wheel of the number 14 car collection Audi, and having done that 3 minutes 25.0 as you described, Johnny, he stayed out but has come across all these slow zones out on the circuit, so hasn't been able to improve. The number 6 car has been taken out now by Gabriele Piana. He is the no, he's not. He's the 3rd driver to drive that car, because Patrick Assenheimer is the 4th, and he's not been in the car yet. So Gabriele Piana now at the wheel of the number 6 car, and Lawrence Van Tour, as we said, is at the wheel of the 911. But of course, all of those cars are safely qualified into the top qualifying already anyway. But for the others, and this is why I find this element of the qualifying session is still going to be interesting to watch, even though it's going into the last half hour or so of it. For the others who haven't qualified, although we do have code 60s around the place, their other sectors are still being measured. So as long as those drivers are quick through those other sectors, they can still improve their theoretical lap times.
And a time through the sector with the code 60, they take their previous fastest time through there.
Yeah.
So it's
not a whole lap that you have to string together all together. You can take your best lap made up of the best sector all the way around the circuit.
And there's how many sectors?
42.
Remind us again. 42 sectors.
So that I've taken to call them micro sectors, so that we don't get confused with the 9 sectors that we have on the screens. But the race control is using 42 micro sectors.
I like that, Paul. Micro sectors. Distinguishes them, as you say, from our normal timing sectors. I'm pleased I've said this before, I'm pleased we haven't got 42 sectors on this screen.
Well,
but all good green and purple and blue and red.
True. It would be interesting during the top qualifying session, certainly, to be able to view those 42 sectors and describe them to you. It also means we can keep tabs on the cars as well. But 9 sectors is a lot better than 5. So whoever's idea that was, thumbs up. The number 5 Dunlopshod Audi comes into pit lane. I was trying to work out whether that was just a Grand Prix lap.
Has to be, because that's the only way into the pit lane.
Yes, but no, what I mean is, was it actually a Nordschleife and a Grand Prix Strecke and in, or was it just the Grand Prix Strecke and in at the end of that? But I'm sure the 29 car has made use of track time a little bit more than that. So Kelvin van der Linde was pursuing the Phoenix Racing Audi, which is running on Dunlops for this event. Jeroen Blekemolen, Vincent Kolb, Kim Louis Schramm and Frank Stippler. And they are not really focused on quick times because they're down in 33rd position, but that is already, as Paul has mentioned, a car that is into top qualifying for tomorrow.
Yeah, Kelvin van der Linde in the Lant car might easily have improved, but for those slow zones out on the circuit, the code 60 zones out on the circuit, because other than that, he was setting personal bests in the other sectors, the 9 sectors that we get on the screens here, as they went round on that last lap. Very quick from van der Linde, but he wasn't able to improve in the crucial sector 6 and was almost double the normal lap time there. Instead of doing something just over 30 seconds, between 30 and 40 seconds, he was very nearly a minute and 10 seconds going through that sector. So that's the kind of impact that those slow zones have.
Jörg Bergmeister, and congratulations to Jörg and everyone else at Team Project 1, 56 Porsche, who inherited the GTE AM win last weekend at Le Mans, remember, as the Riley Motorsports 4GT was disqualified. And yeah, there are definitely 2 cars. The Gazoo Team Thailand car in the barrier on the left, which we said was 119.
Yeah.
So that's the Toyota CHR. And then the 59, we think, Porsche, that was heavily in the barrier on the right-hand side. And now Jörg Bergmeister virtually, well, careful not to be alongside the number 2, but they were almost bumper to bumper. The number 2 Black Falcon Mercedes, which has at the wheel Maro Engel. Got to be careful not to confuse ENG with ENG, particularly as they're together on the screen as well. One's Philip Eng, number 98, the other one's Maro Engel, number 2, but both indicated by the same 3 letters. That's
brilliant.
Awkward, isn't it?
Takes the whole purpose of having 3 letters which identify the driver.
Yeah, but they need to, when they're doubled up 3 letters,
absolutely.
you've got to think of something else. I mean, it could be P-E-N.
Well,
Just
that's
wait until we get to the
Or it
Hofer
could be-
car
or
where
it-
you've got 2 crawls in there.
Which
crawl is it?
Good
yeah,
point.
no, absolutely.
Very good point.
Hopefully my screens are going to be able to tell us that, so we'll keep our fingers crossed and we'll try and get to that point.
Don't fall asleep on us, Paul, will you? Saturday night.
Well, it's either me staying awake or me teaching Joe how to use the screens, which I have tried to do in the past.
Yeah, just stay awake, Paul.
Okay,
For goodness sake.
You can leave me in charge of them if you want.
But no, it is worth making
And you
the
get
point
Netflix on them.
that there are other timing systems that have unique 3-letter identifiers, as opposed to these systems which just take the first 3 letters that they come across in the driver's surname.
Yes,
I think.
regardless, yes.
Anyway, we'll stay up all night and we'll work out what's going on. Of the top 4 cars, 3 of them currently in the pits, Gabriele Piana being the exception in the number 6 Black Falcon car. And then behind, looking for who else might be in a position to improve. At the moment, of course, in terms of the overall lap time, none will. I suppose in my defence, to a lap time underneath 8 minutes 20, we do have a theoretical lap time of 8 minutes 19 now, which is that combination of sectors from Raffaele Marciello in the number 48 HTP man filter Mercedes.
There's a yellow flag being displayed at Marshall Post 2A.
That's on the start-finish straight,
which
Johnny,
is
you're
on the
right.
yeah, pit out.
Must be
Strange.
I wonder if there is a car stuck in the pit lane exit.
Yeah.
Sometimes happens on the way out. You get a car not wanting to go.
I think you're probably spot on, Paul, because there isn't a slow zone to indicate that there is a car having problems on the track, but there is a yellow flag at that point that Johnny said, pit out.
It's 304,
and then we
maybe?
go green before the first turn.
Car 304.
304, yeah, I think you're right there. Well spotted, JP.
So that stopped either pit out or on the run down to the first corner.
It's the MKR Engineering Porsche Cayman. that looks like it's. It looks like you're right. It's on the run down now. Whether that is pit out, actually still in the pit lane,
or whether it's the first bit of the track, it's
Yeah.
hard to tell, isn't it, from the tracker? But therefore, although you'll probably be allowed to overtake at the S turn, the marshal posts 4 and 5, sort of turn 1 and 2, there'll be no overtaking just before the braking area, as that car is attempted to be recovered, but it's going to be pretty difficult to get that out of the way. Now, Maro Engel's just coming through Hohenrhein, underneath the bridge, rejoining the Grand Prix Strecker, so might get an opportunity now to see the yellow flags. And are they still being displayed is the first question. Yes, and it is a car which is being recovered, I think probably from pit out. So it hasn't quite made the track, but technically no overtaking. But now these 3 cars that reach the S-bend that kicks off the Grand Prix Strecker are starting to overlap. But that car, thankfully, not on the track. It's virtually right up against the barrier. And I think, it's a car that's either was on its way out of pit lane or it was on the main track and has decided to pull up on the grass there. Great work from the aerial camera. It's a Porsche, I think, with the Audi recovery vehicle just parked in front of it.
Watching Maro Engel there just start another lap, you would think with all of that clear-up work going on just after Bergwerk at Kesselchen, there's no point in pushing for a fast lap. However, because of this rule with regards to the 42 microsectors, there's every reason to keep pushing and then take out the slow zone part and rely upon a previous sector time through that section. There's still an opportunity to improve your grid position and your position towards getting into qualifying, the top 30 qualifying.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly,
I see that rule
that's
coming
exactly
into play
the
there.
reason that they wanted to do it, was to make people want to continue to participate in the qualifying session, whatever point within the qualifying session we are.
On a 14-mile track like the Nordschleife, that's perfect.
Yeah,
On
absolutely.
a conventional track, it's not going to be.
Yeah,
it's not
no.
going to work as much.
No, quite. And we're lucky that because of the various resurfacing exercises being carried out at the Nordschleife over the winter, there are these extra timing loops that are now in the circuit which weren't earlier on. So that enables the technology. However, of course, it really is, again, only relevant for those cars in SP9, because for everybody else, people who are not in the top qualifying, what we're seeing now is, and it's real lap times that count. Theoretical lap times don't count in terms of where you start on the grid. So for everybody else, we're looking at, cars trying to start at the head of their class, times that are affecting grid positions for the other 120 odd cars that are in this field.
So the top 30 cars, are we seeing? Let's call it the top 30 cars, because I know we're over 30.
Up to 36 possibly.
They are qualifying for that top 30 position by means of the 42 microsectors. After the 30, are we relying upon a lap time?
Yeah.
Not a theoretical lap time.
Correct.
Right. I knew that. I'm just clarifying that for
Everybody else.
for listeners. Yeah.
Clarified it for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you're not chosen to be involved in the top qualifying tomorrow night, then your lap time from these sessions will stand, and that will put you in a rightful position on the grid. We've got another. No, that's the same time. It's actually a new driver taking over, the number 48 Mercedes AMG GT3, the man filter car. So Lance David Arnold now at the wheel, but an 8:24.801 still stands from Raffaele Marciello a little earlier on. There's still a code 60 out on track, by the way.
And the other session to which we're referring, there are 2 qualifying sessions for everybody else. This is the 3-hour session which goes on till 11:30 tonight. The other session is from 2:55 until 4:45 tomorrow. So that is not quite 2 hours. So the next session will be in full daylight from 5 to 3 until 4:45. But just under 2 hours of qualifying then. just to reiterate the 2 points of qualification. One is that you have to do every driver has to do 2 laps, and the other is that your car's qualifying time must be within 120% of the fastest car in your class. So you don't have to look at the overall fastest, but you do have to look at the fastest in your class.
Thanks to Alan Prosser, who's just tweeted a couple of screen grabs from the video footage or the stream footage, and it shows the Toyota Gazoo Racing Lexus with heavy rear end damage, and it also shows clearly quite excessive front end damage on the 59 Porsche.
See, I didn't read that as 59 at the time.
Yeah, that's what that corresponds to what the tracker told us as well.
Yeah, I know.
But that looks pretty heavy front end damaged. I'm going to be interested to see what that car's looking like tomorrow morning when we pay them a visit.
Yeah, it would be a dreadful pity for
It
the
would be a massive pity,
CP Racing team, covering as we do quite a lot of their races
Absolutely.
in other series, and they have been very, very focused on getting their car firstly qualified for the Nurburgring 24 hours, and then getting it into a position where they might be able to do quite well in class SP7, which is where that car competes in, the class that car competes in. But we'll see what happens.
Alan's took a more detailed screenshot. Now the front of the car, it all depends, Alan, on whether or not where the front suspension mounts to the chassis. If the chassis legs have been twisted, it's very difficult to put that car back together. If everything in front of the chassis legs where the suspension mounts to has been mangled, well, that's designed to do that. So it hopefully is looking worse than it actually is.
Yep.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that all the front end deformable structure bits are indeed what we're looking at there.
Yeah,
It was Manat Kula Palanont who was driving the Toyota, by the way, and Xavier Masson, who wasn't the name originally, down to drive that car, although Xavier Masson has raced with the CP Racing trio many, many times before. And Xavier Masson stranded out then somewhere else on the circuit.
Yeah, the car's currently 6th in SP7 and was 53rd overall, the number 59 car.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think you made a better fist of the Thai driver's name than I did, Johnny, so well done.
Quick question, easily answered for Ian McCarthy. He's in a quandary as to when the slow zone finishes and when the drivers can accelerate. It's basically when they see the green flag.
No, you have to go past
the green
flag.
So at the point of the green flag,
Another
that's when
chance
you
to
can
see the damage, Joe.
hammer it. Yeah.
And the Toyota CHR is damaged, I think, rear right and rear left. There's a rescue unit on the scene dealing with the Porsche as well.
So front end damage on the Porsche, Johnny.
Yeah.
Rear end damage on the Lexus. You don't need to be a detective to work that one out, do you?
And the Porsche's faster than what class is the Team Thailand Toyota in? It's an SP3 car. So also in that class, Opel Calibras, Renault Clios, Toyota GT86s. So that gives you an idea of the sort of speed that the Toyota CHR can offer. It's also the class that the Opel Manta is in. Whereas the 59 car is an SP7 machine, so that's a class full of and exclusively Porsche Cup cars, GT3 Cup cars, and CP Racing with their Gen 2 991 specification GT3 Cup car. So, yeah, whether Xavier Masson has caught the Team Thailand car in sort of two minds as to whether to stay to the racing line or not, and we cannot really comment on the incident because didn't see it. Just the aftermath, and unfortunately two very badly damaged cars. Jan Erik Schluten now at the wheel of the number 8 machine, and that car is not currently featuring in the top 6, but it is 9th actually. So that car having done an 8:30.859 earlier on, but generally everyone's well over the 9-minute mark currently because of that long code 60 which is in place, and it's probably going to be in place, let's face it, till the end of the session.
I think that's probably right, because there's only just over 5 minutes of the session remaining, Johnny, and I think it's actually, although it is described as a code 60, I suspect that because they've had to narrow the track so much there, you're probably struggling to do 60 kilometres an hour through there. But as I say, if you're standing around the track elsewhere, not looking at timing screens, the beauty of this form of qualifying is you've still got cars going very rapidly past you, particularly the GT3 cars, because it's those that have the most to gain, because they'll be fighting for a position within the top qualifying. Lance David Arnold, as I suggested, he was getting into the car. He is now in the fastest car, the man filter car, now with Lance David Arnold at the wheel. He's currently halfway round a lap of the Nordschleife. René Rast still at the wheel of the car collection Audi. Gabriele Piana still in the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes, and Lawrence Vantour in the 911 Porsche.
Another yellow flag on the Grand Prix track, which is at the Michelin Curve, which is after the Michael Schumacher S, much slower and heavier braking area into the left-hander, which then becomes an even tighter right-hander, actually, and leads everyone towards the Hatzenbach-Borgen. So
there's no car showing there, Johnny.
no, that's interesting. Okay, but yellow flags definitely
Yeah,
there, and
definitely
green
there,
flags
yeah.
then in time for the right-hander. And more yellow flags at Klostertal, although they
That's
almost
just come in. Yeah.
they immediately are withdrawn. What about Callenhard, Joe? Marshall Post 113, which is at the run down towards Breitscheid, around about, well, just before
Nothing
Versifen.
showing, Johnny.
Yeah, that's cleared very quickly as well. So they suggested that that's just spin and continued maybe
Right.
for a couple of cars. One thing that isn't clearing, though, is the code 60 around Bergwerk and on towards Kesselchen. So Jan-Erik Schluten for Iron Force Racing, heading through the very quick left-hand kink at the end of the Dottinger Höhe. Now heading into Tiergarten and a clear track up ahead. Very, very dark indeed until the headlights swing to the right angle. And Jan-Erik knows where to aim that number 8 Porsche at. Coming back into slightly more floodlit area of the main straight. And over the line that car goes, but there were no personal best sector times, although the 16 car is doing pretty well on this lap, again to improve on one of or two of the 9 sectors. Jan Seifert now at the wheel of the Get Speed Performance number 16 GT Tyres Golf in the pit lane.
Notice the 91 in the pits there. David Drinkwater, one of the drivers, familiar name in the Creventic series.
And in British Club Racing in general. In fact, bumped into DD, almost literally, as I was doing one of my little walks behind the paddock as you try and dash up. If he hadn't have called out my name, I think I probably would have bumped into him. But David, looking forward to the weekend ahead. Let's have a look.
He's worked hard to get his qualification done for this race.
Yes, very obviously getting the Nordschleife permit.
He's in the car, Paul.
He's sitting in the car, isn't he?
91,
He's done his 3 laps already, so he's safely qualified, as has Uli Schmidt, Ralf Lammering and Mario Hendrick. So all 4 drivers in that number 91 Golf have done their laps this evening, and that will be very pleasing for them. A lot of the cars further down the grid will really just be trying to get their night qualifying laps done, and as Johnny was saying, and you mentioned, Joe, getting the lights pointing in the right direction, making sure that everybody's comfortable with the way things are.
Crucial, isn't it? Especially the undulations we have on the Nordschleife.
But David Drinkwater, not a newcomer to driving at night.
He pronounces it GT, Josh Barrett tells me.
Okay.
Who does?
David
Josh,
Drinkwater.
or David does?
David
Okay.
does, yeah.
We'll
David
go
told him.
I think we decided we'd go with
GT.
GT, so that's fine.
So David chairing on this occasion with Mario Hendrick, Ralf Lammering and Ulrich Schmidt.
All of whom have driven the car thus far, Johnny, so
Okay.
they're presumably all safely qualified.
In that Mark 6 GTI Golf, number 91. Called a site then of Hans Heyer as well, Kenneth's father. with the traditional headwear.
Tyrolean hat has always been on Hans's head. Now, is Hans Heyer a former winner of this race, I wonder? He's certainly raced here, but I'm not quite sure if he's ever raced.
Don't think he is, Paul.
No, it's Alfred Hager who's the driver I was thinking of who'd won the race. But Hans Heyer, driver of sports cars more than saloons and GTs. And
that story of is it the 1978 German Grand Prix where he
when
snuck on the end of the
started
grid?
the race that he
Didn't
shouldn't have
qualify,
started, yes. Can't see that quite happening these days.
No.
Anyway, yes.
Anyway, just over a minute to go, guys, before the checkered flag.
Absolutely. But no improvements in times likely, I don't think.
No.
Will we have information as to who our qualifiers for the fast qualifying session tomorrow will be at this stage, or are we going to have to wait for a bulletin?
No, we'll have to wait for a bulletin. There's no way we can find out. And indeed, the organisers are only obliged to say who is into the top qualifying at the end of both qualifying sessions. Because if they give it all away now, then people will think they're off the hook. So they will keep their cards to their chest until we get into the end of the qualifying session tomorrow, which, as I say, starts at 5 to 3 and goes on until a quarter to 5. And then we have one of the most dramatic moments of the weekend, which is the drawing of the order for which order everybody goes, which is held down in the paddock and sees the drivers of each car, or a nominated driver from each car, picking out a piece of paper to say what position he will start in the line of cars that head off onto the top 30 qualifying.
I love it. I think it's fantastic entertainment.
And that
Spectacular.
can be important because A, weather can play a part, B, because they let them go in only 10-second intervals, you do sometimes get a bit of traffic on that single lap
And you could be wrapped up in an incident as well, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. So it does make a difference.
The checkered flag's out, boys. So the session technically over, although if you've already crossed the line and are now on a, in inverted commas, fast lap, I say that because we've still got a code 60 in the middle of it, but we could be on for some fast sectors. You are permitted to complete the lap that you've just started prior to the checkered flag appearing, but there are more yellow flags out on track now at Brunchen and at Fladsgard, and that sounds like the same incident actually. Marshal posts 168 and 169, so restricting the track further around after Wipperman.
I've got no cars showing stationary in that section.
But the yellow flag's still.
Well, the yellow flag, we've definitely got a yellow flag, and then we've got a green flag before we get to Flansgarten. So it's just out of Brunchen.
Just an incredible amount of vehicles now on the track in this code 60, with lorries left and right recovering the damaged cars. There's also barrier repair taking place, so the Unimogs are out in force together with some other flatbed machinery. And as Paul says, I mean, it is like threading your car through sort of a restricted motorway, which is dealing with incidents. And any hope of doing 60 kilometres an hour, no chance. More like 30 Ks, I would have said, as you work out which bit of the track is still available to drive upon. The Ginetta GT4 that is just circumnavigating that part of the track is now virtually back up to racing speed. I think there's only one Ginetta in the entry, and that's Charlie Robertson in the SP10 Kramer Racing.
Have a guess who else is in that car with him?
It sounds very Colin Whitish, I have to say.
Well, he's in the entry as Colin Derrick White.
Okay.
But we know him as fondly as Colin White.
Indeed, the
never give up
man
Colin
from
White.
Glastonbury.
Yeah, Colin never give up White.
Absolutely right, and he drives everything quickly, including his road cars. But former world champion at national hot rod level, national champion as well. Then went on into
still races hot rods. Ovals, yeah.
Still races. What are those cars called on the ovals in Belgium?
Yep, he
and
goes
the
across
Netherlands.
to the Benelux short ovals.
Yes, ASCAR type machinery, but also has a Ginetta, which he does in sprint racing in the UK as part of the TOCA package, and also the long distance stuff, 24H series. So although cars are still streaming across the line to complete their final laps of the session, very unlikely to see a change at the top of the order now, with number 48 then fastest at the end of night qualifying. That's the number 48 HTP prepared AMG Mercedes. Give it its proper title, the Team Manfilter GT3, and it's a driving crew of Christian Hohenadel, Lance David Arnold, Raffaele Marciello and Maximilian Goertz, and Raffaele Marciello doing the time earlier on, an 8:24.801, and that was immediately after René Rast set a very good time in the number 14 Audi. The car collection entered Audi R8 LMS, an 8:25.012, so only a couple of tenths of a second between the two best times, and a further 3/10 back to the Gabriele Piana driven Mercedes from Black Falcon, but that was a Nico Bastian time, an 8:25.345. The 911 Porsche is the best 911R GT3R in the order, and that was the car that took pole position last year. The 8:28.054 puts it fourth in this session. When I say that was the car, I mean corresponding number, effectively, probably not exactly the same chassis. Fifth position, the number 98 BMW, so that's the best M6 from night qualifying, best placed M6. Connor De Filippi last to drive it, but the 98 car was put there by Tom Blomqvist, and it was a time of 8:28.414, and that car is still circulating, actually, somewhere in the third sector, although, no, that might have become an in-lap, and it was. So 2 sectors on the Grand Prix Strecker, but then decided to turn right and come into the pit lane. Maro Engel last to drive the number 2 car, 8:29.017. That's another Mercedes from Black Falcon. 6th fastest. 7th quickest was the number 99 Rover Racing BMW M6, an 8:29.545. The 16 Get Speed Performance Mercedes did an 8:29.835, so that was 8th fastest in the session. 9th quickest, the number 8 Iron Force by Ring Police Porsche, 8:30.859, and 10th quickest, the number 101 Valkenhorst Motorsport BMW, last to be driven by Spaniard Lucas Ordóñez, but that car's currently in the pits, and earlier on it did an 8:31.255. Try and give you as many class leaders as possible as we hit the pause button in the qualifying process. The best qualified AT, alternatively fueled car, is the number 320 Team Care for Climate Porsche GT3 Cup machine. Best SPX, the only SPX car in the entry, the 705, which was 32nd overall, the Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus SCG. And the best SP7 car, the Huber Motorsport Porsche, car number 63. Top of the shop in SP8 was the GT Tyre Motorsport by Racing Audi R8 LMS, the BE Audi, car number 148. Fastest in SP8T, the AMR Performance Centre Aston Martin Vantage, AMR GT4, car number 36. Fastest in Cup 3, which is all Porsche 718 Caymans, that was the number 303. Mulner Motorsport entered Porsche. TCR was topped by the 170 Hyundai Motorsport N i30. So we did have the Veloster quickest earlier on, last to be driven by Mark Basseng, but it was Peter Terting in the i30 that was quickest. SP6 topped by the Setup Wizard Racing Porsche, number 125. SP3T, the number 88 Subaru WRX from Technica International was fastest there. SP Pro, only one of those cars. It was the Lexus LC that did a time which was good enough for 54th overall. And the best SP10 car was from Black Falcon, the Team Identica Mercedes AMG GT4 car. That was 55th overall, car number 70. And being a big fan of Classic Cup 5 for the BMW 240i's, I can tell you that it was car 240 suitably that was fastest. The Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport car, it was 7 Sandberg, so car 240 had at the wheel Oscar Sandberg, and that was the fastest Class 5 machine. Apologies to all the classes I've missed out. There are so many. We will I make it 158 cars that made it out in that session from the 160 we think that are entered.
And I just have to wave me Manta Foxtail.
Yeah,
I've always been a fan of the Manta Foxtail, but that is fastest in the SP3 class.
Excellent.
So if you're following the Foxtail on Twitter, then it's Foxtail SP3. It's an SP3 class car, and it is fastest in SP3.
Lovely. Cars are still finishing the session. They probably will be for the next 15 minutes. Frankly, but the clock is definitely at 0, and
the cars that are out there, Johnny,
yes,
as far as I can work out from this tracker, the ones who are still out are on the Dottinger Hoa at the moment.
Oh, good,
so,
okay.
The times you've given, I think, were pretty close to the final times. In any case, no improvements possible in that at the end of the session. So, final cars just coming up towards the line now.
But that just about wraps up qualifying 1 for this year's 2019 Nurburgring 24. But don't forget, our coverage continues tomorrow. If you go to radiolemans.com, you will see the RS1 schedule and the full detailing. As long as your clock is right on the laptop or the desktop, it will give you the correct times for our broadcasts. But local time, we will be on air at 2:50 in the afternoon for a 2:55 session. And that is to be completed at 4:45. So we will go off air at 4:50 to make sure there's 5 minutes either side effectively. And then back on air at 6:50. Plenty of time, therefore, ahead of a 7 p.m. start for N24 top qualifying. And it's due to be a 40-minute session with as many as 36 cars contained within that qualifying session to determine the front, anywhere between the front 28 positions and as many as 36 positions, basically. All the sharp end places will be confirmed, and we'll also detail the order that those cars are setting off from the start-finish straight as well after the random draw. So 2 very important sessions to come tomorrow. And then we'll also have warm-up live on Saturday morning. That's a 9:10 session, so 10 past 9 for an hour. And our countdown to green begins at 2 o'clock local time on Saturday, ahead of a 2:30 start, a 3:30 start, isn't it, Paul? 3:30 in the afternoon on Saturday.
Correct.
Yeah, so loads more to come. That is merely the tip of the iceberg as far as qualifying is concerned. But my thanks to John Hindhoff, who looked after the first part of that session, to Paul Truswell, to Joe Bradley, and of course the responsible adult Eve Hewitt, and to our producers back in London, making sure we stay on air. Be sure to stay with us throughout the weekend. Lots more to come. And we're back on air at 2:50 local time. From Johnny Palmer, though, for the moment, it's good night.